Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes stronger and emotionless part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto, POV. Who would have thought this amazing woman walking by my side has loved me for so long? I never realized she held so much love for me until this mission. I mean, yeah, I always thought that the way she acted towards me was the same way she acted with everyone else. How could I have known that she has loved me so much for such a long time? I'm glad you know, after all, who would get a woman like her to love someone like me? We are from such different worlds that it's almost like a fairy tale, and well, after that intense kiss on the air, it feels really good to be with her. I love her so much, I didn't know it was possible for me to feel so alive, but I guess anything is possible, huh? I grin brightly as I squeeze her left hand with my right one tightly enough to bring her attention onto me, and surprising her, I pull her closer to me and wrap my bandaged right arm above her right shoulder. I look intently at her face, taking in every one of her cute features, knowing that now there's nothing to be embarrassed about while doing it. After some seconds of the continuous staring, I notice how a cute blush starts to spread on each of her rosy cheeks, which makes her look even cuter than before, if it is even possible. We continue to stare at one another while we keep walking ahead of our friends, knowing they won't bother us much because this is a private moment for us. After some more seconds, she lifts her left arm and entwines her left hand with my right one over her shoulder. She returns the squeeze from earlier with the same intensity and smiles brightly back to me, her cute blush never leaving her. Yes, this definitely is right. I want to be with her forever and I'll never let go until the day I die or even beyond that. Hinata POV. Is this a dream? I mean, having Naruto-kun here, walking side by side, holding hands like I've always dreamed to do. I can't even look in front of us. I can only keep looking at the ground and taking sneak glances at him from time to time. I feel so giddy and embarrassed. I've longed to be with him for so long that I'm thinking maybe this is only a dream. After all, that intense kiss on the air. Oh wow, I can't even describe how it felt. This must be a dream, right? Can someone please not wake me up from this incredible dream I am having right now? While I keep sneakily glancing at him, I can't help but blush every time I remember that intense kiss we gave each other on the air. This just feels right. I feel him squeeze my left hand. It's so warm and safe, it feels really good, and so to not let him know I'm too embarrassed right now, I calm myself down a little, and after making sure I'm calm enough, I turn my head around to look at him feeling a little curious, when suddenly he brings me closer to himself and hugs me, making me feel more embarrassed than before. That was a real surprise, to be honest, and now we can't help but keep staring at one another. I must show him that he can feel the same as me, so I grab his hand over my shoulder and squeeze it, smiling brightly at him. Yes, this isn't a dream, this is happening right now, and it feels right. I want to be with him always, I'll never let go no matter what. Sigh, this is such a drag, you know guys, Shikamaru said while taking a soft and soothing breath from his new cigarette. He knew that after all the trouble on the moon, it was gonna be a long night filled with nothing more than paperwork for tomorrow's written mission report, although he didn't really feel like doing any of it. Anyways, work is work, he thought. Maybe looking at the new power couple wasn't so bad, but maybe, who knows. Looking around himself, he noticed that everyone else was having the same thoughts as himself, excluding the happy couple and the bubbly Hanabi that was looking really giddy while looking at Naruto and Hinata be so cuddly to each other. Nana, Oni-sama, does this mean that I can call Naruto-san Oni-sama now? Oh, and am I gonna have a nephew or niece in 9 months or so? Hanabi asked while she was walking backwards, bending over with her hands clasped behind her and smiling at Naruto and Hinata, a smile that looked very much like the cat that just ate the canary, and no one knows about it, making all of them stop, especially the happy couple, and gape at Hanabi while they were having a growing blush in each other's face. Well, that is normal in a couple, is it not? Sai said, tilting his head, knowing that is what supposedly happens when a man and woman marry and are in love, they form a family, right? Making Naruto and Hinata blush even more red and making them look like gaping fish with how their mouths constantly keep opening and closing. Ahem, well, you know, we should keep moving, we need to get fast to Konoha because we need to report about the mission, right? Sakura said, changing the subject and making everyone else nod. She received a grateful glance from the couple, making her smile softly, while Hanabi looked at her with a little frown on her face for interrupting her fun, but oh well, maybe the next time. After all, she will have all the time in the world to tease them both, right? So their trek to Konoha continues while they contemplate how to explain the whole mess on the moon. Like seriously, if they didn't live in this life, they could swear that Naruto's life was akin to messy, horrible continuum experience. But never mind that, he always persevered and became the person who he now is, but that story could be for another time. Looking at the group of people walking in the forest, you could feel how everyone else behind the happy couple were feeling quite left out. I mean, looking at the new couple that looked at each other with such love, well, let's just say that one could feel very, but very left out. It looked like nothing could go actually wrong. Finally, after walking what felt like hours, they could finally see the giant door in the distance to their village was wide open, inviting them to return home, making each and every one of them smile at finally been able to return safely, and especially for the new couple that felt that maybe nothing could go wrong, because from now on every challenge that comes their way, they'll solve it together. Okay everyone, we are finally getting home. Remember, first we need to get to the Hokage Tower for the talk debrief. After that everyone else is free to go home or do whatever you wish to do, Shikamaru said, glancing with a knowing look at a certain direction, making the couple feel a little sheepish, knowing what he actually meant to say, but didn't. Hi. Everyone answered. Finally, after some more walking, they saw a normal sight every day, the eternal Chunin door guards, Izumo and Kitetsu, giving them a welcoming smile and giving a knowing smirk to Naruto, making him feel a little uncomfortable and asking them both what? As his only question. Oh nothing, nah Naruto-kun, said Izumo, making Hinata blush a little and look at the ground. Yeah, it's nothing to Bayo, said Kitetsu, making everyone else look at him like he just sprouted a second head. The FFT, ha 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 ha, everyone laughed at the same time, making Kitetsu feel embarrassed because of the traditional catchphrase of the blonde ninja. That only works well with me to Bayo, Naruto said, smirking and feeling really glad that he's back home, making everyone else nod and feel really good at being back home. After signing the papers on the booth, they continued their walk, feeling less left out and very good with each other. So that's what happened in the end, and you know the rest. Can we finally go home? This is getting too troublesome to deal with. Oh yeah, Naruto and Hinata are finally together, Shikamaru said, telling everything that happened on the moon, in the end pointing with his thumb finger behind his head at the mentioned ones, making Kakashi raise an eyebrow and glance at them suspiciously, looking like he was saying, finally huh? Making Naruto raise his own eyebrow, wondering to himself if everyone else knew besides himself. Sakura, looking at the questioning look Naruto had on his face, could only sigh and shake her head while shrugging and saying, hi Baka, everyone else besides you knew about it. Heck, we were wondering when you two would be finally together. By the way, I think Ino owes me 40,000 yen and I'm planning on getting my money here. Wait, are you telling me that you guys knew? And even had a betting pool on it? Nani to Bayo. Naruto said, looking around, finally setting on looking at Hinata, who only looked at him and shook her head, telling him that she didn't know at all neither. I never told anyone, Naruto-kun, I mean, it was supposed to be a secret only for me, Hinata said, looking at him, tilting her head while looking confused, making everyone else look at her. The FFT, yeah, you weren't very subtle about it, Oni-sama. I mean, after all, remember I was just teasing you to finally give the scarf to Oni-sama after all that indecision on the garden, Hanabi said, while grinning teasingly at the couple. Hey yeah, it was kinda troublesome watching you two interact all the time, although it was quite funny altogether, you know. Shikamaru said, smirking and making Sai just tilt his head and nod. So was I the only one that didn't know a thing at all? Naruto said, making everyone else nod, which made him look a little depressed, but Hinata squeezed his hand, giving him her support, which made him smile softly. Well, Hokage-sama, can we leave now? Yeah, just leave already. I expect a written mission report tomorrow morning sharp by each of you, understood? Now, everyone else can leave, but only Hanabi-san and Hinata-san should stay. I need to tell them something, Kakashi said, making Hanabi and Hinata look at Kakashi a little worried, not knowing what he was gonna tell them. Naruto, noticing their worried expression, decided to support Hinata and Hanabi and said, can I stay, Hokage-sama? I promise I won't say a thing and just listen, sounding very respectful and knowing this could be important. He showed how much he has grown in the 2 years he has been studying for such meetings when he takes the position as Hokage in the future. Kakashi nods, saying only if Hanabi-san and Hinata-san feel like letting you do so, making both girls nod without hesitation, knowing that Naruto keeps his promises always and that he will not go back on his word, no matter what happens. They watched how everyone left the room in high spirit, the only ones staying back been Hanabi, Hinata and Naruto, whom were in front of the desk lined up and standing at attention, waiting for what Kakashi had to say, whom was sitting behind his desk with his arms crossed on his chest. So I'm just gonna be blunt and to the point, Hiashi-sama is in the hospital on a bed right now, he said, making both girls gasp and get worried, while Naruto frowned upon receiving the notice, but just kept to himself. Good, although you don't need to worry at all, he's not in a critical condition or anything like that. He was left here by Uchiha Sasuke while he was passing by. It looks like he found Hiashi-sama while he was wandering near the border of Hai no Kuni and Nami no Kuni. Hiashi-sama was only tired after walking such a long distance from the meeting he had earlier today. He informed me that he was attacked by the same Tenari, whom you guys just told me about, so it seems that the matters regarding that problem are solved for now. If you feel the need to visit him to be sure that he's out of critical condition, you may proceed to do so without the need to hold back, although please try to refrain from making your visit too long, Kakashi said, making Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi nod and start to leave the room, slowly saying a thank you to Kakashi. Just as Kakashi was reading a new mission report for the next day, he heard Naruto stop on the door and look back at him over his right shoulder. "Nah, Kakashi-sensei," he said, making Kakashi stop and look up at him. "Do tell him I say hello, and thank you for helping Hiashi-san from the three of us," Naruto said, closing the door behind himself slowly, making Kakashi smile softly and nod. Then he continued to read the mission for the next day. The walk to the hospital was a quiet one. While Naruto and Hinata were holding hands, Hanabi was in front of them walking and humming quietly to herself, each one having their own thoughts about different things. When they were inside the hospital, they asked a receptionist where Hiashi has been lodged at, and after signing some papers, proceeded to visit him. Entering the room quietly, they noticed that a strange shadow was looming over Hiashi with a kunai in hand that was glinting dangerously thanks to the moonlight, which made Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi tense up and spring into action fast enough. Byakugan, Hanabi and Hinata said quietly, while the distinguishing veins around their eyes came to life. They stood on the regular position of the Jiken style. As for Naruto, he quickly got a kunai in his hand that sprung out from the hidden device in his clothes with pinpoint accuracy, threw it fast enough at the assailant's hand, disarming him or her in the process. He quickly appeared with a Sunshin no Jutsu behind the assailant and punched hard, making a resounding crack be heard loud enough when it impacted on the side of the rib cage of the assailant, launching the assailant to where Hinata and Hanabi were waiting, and saying together Haki Rakujikin SHM, proceeded to close the Tenketsu and shut down the assailant's body in the process, sending it sailing back to Naruto, who was waiting with a bright orange ball on his right hand. When it was close enough, he sidestepped the human projectile and saying Rasengan, he thrusted it on the assailant's body and in the process embedded him or her against the wall of the room. Boom resounded across the quiet night and street, surprising some few civilian couples that were walking nearby quietly. They watched as a body impacted against the ground and made an indent with huge spider cracks on it. Seriously, what's with our village security? They just come and go like it's their own frigging home to Bayo, Naruto said, jumping out from the big hole on the hospital wall and landing near the body of the assailant, while Hinata and Hanabi stayed on the room looking out for their father's security, whom was wide awake because of the explosion and looking on with his Byakugan activated. But to the Hyuga's surprise, they couldn't see the face nor the body complexion of the assailant. Looking closely, they noticed that the hidden figure had some weird runes that were running along the torso of the clothes of the person and were glowing an eerie green color, which were making all three of them worried, although they did notice something that left them quite shocked, which was the Hyuga clan crest that was resting on the right leg of the pant hidden beneath a patch of cloth. "Alright, you bastard are going to tell me, who are you? What were you gonna gain by killing the Hyuga patriarch?" Naruto asked, walking to the downed person, whom when looking up, noticed that the Kono Yo no Kakashi was the one that knocked him. It smirked and just made a hand seal, which made the unknown person vanish in front of Naruto like it was a simple illusion, not before giving him a wide smirk which made Naruto stop in his tracks, because in those last moments he could clearly see two distinguishable wide eyes, which belonged to the Hyuga members of the famed clan. Looking up, he jumped the 10-meter distance where the hole to Hiashi's room was and stood in front of the three worried Hyugas. "I think there really must be a big problem going on in your clan, Hiashi-sama. If they just tried to kill you, we need to go ASAP to your clan estates and verify what is happening," Naruto said, looking at Hiashi, whom only nodded and tried to leave the bed and stand, but Naruto was in front of him faster than he could move and lifted him from the bed in both his arms, which made him look at Naruto surprised. "This way we will get there faster. We need to know what the problem is and how we can solve it." Poof, a cloud of smoke appeared by Naruto's side, signifying the appearance of three more Narutos. "You on the right, go inform Hokage-sama what happened here ASAP without delay, and no sidetracking," Naruto said to the clone on his other two clones' right, which only nodded and left to do as ordered. "You two will help me escort the Hyuga patriarch and his heirs to the clan estate. Their security is our top priority right now. Swarming strategy now. We need to reach there strong and fast. Move it," said Naruto, making each clone nod affirmatively and stay in front of each Hyuga female. They kept their guard up and each Hyuga activated their Byakugan to watch and keep safe each other's back. Suddenly each clone made their own hand seal and said together Taj Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, creating 30 clones each one, and started moving in random directions all together to reach the Hyuga estate without delay. Although from time to time Naruto received the memories of each of his clones that were slowly been taken down one by one, but the clones themselves used their own strategy and immobilized their enemies before disappearing and taking note of where each hidden assailant was taken down, making more clones of himself. Naruto sent them to get the village traitors to the Hokage and send them to prison. Growl, "This is getting annoying. Good thing we are so close. Be ready for any confrontation." "Hinata, Hanabi, tell me, what can you see in there?" he asked while watching a huge green dome surrounding the place where the estate was supposed to be in. There's no one in the compound. This is weird, Naruto-kun. There are supposed to be guards or any family members around. Wait, I can see a lot of chakra signatures in the central DMJM. We should move in there and confirm what's happening, Hinata said, and Hanabi nodded affirmatively, confirming what her big sister said. Wait, I don't think this huge green dome is here just for decoration, is it? Said Naruto and signaled to the nearest clone to get closer and verify if it could enter the glowing dome, but when the clone touched it with one of its hands, it vanished in a cloud of smoke, confirming Naruto's suspicions. As I thought, we need to find a way to enter, dang bastards, but from where can we enter the place? Naruto said out loud, making the female Hyugas shake their heads, signifying they didn't know how to enter. I think I know a way where we can do so, Naruto-san, but we need to go to the forest that is behind the clan estate. There's a secret passage there known only by the clan leader, Hiashi stated, making them all look at him and nod. Once in the forest and near the secret entrance, Naruto left Hiashi behind a tree some time ago so he could recover his strength without troubles. They noticed that the secret entrance wasn't so secret because they saw at least 6 Hyugas interrupting their passage by standing in the Jiken-style position. No side said a thing, they just launched each other to attack. Report, what's happening, Naruto? Why all of a sudden there are explosions inside the village? Kakashi asks Naruto as he watches huge clouds of smoke rise from other parts of the village. Kakashi-sensei, it looks like there are traitors among the Hyugas. When we were inside the room of the hospital visiting Hiashi-sama, we found a strange figure looming over him. We stopped him or her. We couldn't identify the gender of the assailant. Thing is, after we kicked that person's ass with our attacks with the lowest level of lethality possible, so he or she could be interrogated. I asked what was the person doing, but I didn't get an answer at all. The assailant just made a hand seal and vanished in front of my eyes. What I could actually distinguish was that when the figure was vanishing, it smirked and I could look at their eyes. They were the undistinguished eyes of the Hyugas. Right now the boss is traveling with Hinata and Hanabi escorting them, but knowing something wasn't right, he made 2 clones which made more clones, and that's when things started to get messy as they are right now, Naruto clone said, while watching outside from the window at the rising smoke clouds. I see, so they are trying a coup d'etat. We need to stop them now. Everyone else out there must be doing what they can to help the civilians evacuate right now. Naruto, your orders are, stop the whole Hyuga clan and send them to prison, understood? Kakashi said in a commanding voice. If I may, Hokage-sama, I just received information from another clone, verifying that not all the Hyugas are responsible in this shady scheme. It looks like there are a lot of hostages that are being held inside the central DMJM of the clan estate. I request to be able to proceed with any method necessary to stop the actual culprits on this stupid thing that is happening right now. Hokage-sama, Naruto said, looking at his teacher with such intensity that Kakashi could only nod affirmatively. Okay, Naruto, your orders are, stop the actual culprits of this messy situation our village is in right now, by any means necessary, he said, making the clone nod and when it prepared to disperse. Oh, by the way, lethal force is approved and advised. We don't need such scum around us, understood? Kakashi said, making Naruto nod slowly and vanish in a cloud of smoke. You heard everything we said here, right? Haruka, he said while looking at a corner of the room. You know we are shinobi and the security of our village and people comes first and foremost. After all, he's a jonin now, right? I'm not saying what you are doing is wrong, and neither I'm saying you are in the right, but you do realize that Naruto will try and stop all this madness without casualties at all, right? After all, that's how he is, Haruka said, looking out the window how the smoke clouds were starting to diminish slowly, signifying that the majority of the problems were been solved by the now jonins and protectors of the village, making him smile softly, thinking back on how they were just kids when they left the academy, but had to grow up so fast because of the messed up era they grew up in. Maybe in the future, their children will have a more relaxed way of living, and he'll live to watch them grow, of course, this time as the Ninja Academy director, and not just one more teacher, making him grin widely knowing a brighter future was coming up. You know, it has been so long but Naruto finally did it. No one believed in him at first, always been hated, always alone, he was the pariah of the village. I never realized at first what was really happening with him until I actually started seeing the real Naruto and not just the illusion that everyone else was seeing, Haruka said softly, remembering how every day without stopping, never giving up, Naruto managed to overcome every hurdle that came his way, and this one will just be another one after all, he thought while leaving slowly and letting Kakashi be alone, who looked outside again and started to walk out of the Hokage Tower to meet at the Hyuga estate to see what really was happening. Seriously, what's wrong with these guys? We just finished saving the whole world and this mess comes up like out of nowhere. This is too troublesome, Shikamaru said while binding 8 rogue Hyugas with his shadows that were trying to sneak attack on him. Inpo. CHMJK Giga Shikamaru heard behind himself. He turned around and saw how Sai restrained another Hyuga that was hiding to attack him while he was distracted. We need to secure the village, the civilians that just came back are being evacuated fast as we speak, it looks like there are no casualties so far, what should we do Shikamaru-san? Sai asked as he knocked out the captured rogue Hyugas and watched as Shikamaru did the same with his shadows on the other Hyugas. Shanearu boom. They heard and saw as Sakura that was close by, shattered the ground beneath her and trapped 8 other Hyugas that were trying to attack her to knock her out. Once she noticed that she was done, she looked in the direction where Shikamaru and Sai were and moved fast to them. Which way should we go? And what should we do Shikamaru? After all, you're the one in command until this mess is done she said when she was near Sai and Shikamaru nodding at them. Right now, our top priority is to regain control over the village and avoid any kind of casualties. Let's move now Shikamaru said, but as they were about to engage more enemies, they felt the ground shake and looked up in the direction of the Hyuga estate, which was covered in a huge green dome, saw how a bright massive orange appendage in the form of an open palm with a big yellow ball that could only belong to Naruto using Kurama and Ultimate Rasengan, hit and break the green dome which made the loud sound of glass that is shattering. The 3 of them nodded to one another and jumped away from each other to secure the village and protect the civilians, knowing that once finished their tasks, they were going to back up Naruto in whatever mess he was again at that moment. I mean, didn't the moon just try and crush us all not even 2 hours or so ago? This is too crazy for our own good. Really? Said a beautiful buxom young blonde girl with part of her hair sideways, covering her right eye, revealing her beautiful green left eye, but yelled at the end in desperation as she knocked out 3 rogue shinobis that were trying to gang up on her because of the revealing clothing she was currently wearing. Well, this is actually somehow really out of place. I mean what you say is actually true, so I can't even find the logic on this whole mess suddenly springing up, although it could be that they are taking advantage of the fact the village is at its weakest right now, but it doesn't matter, we can handle these rogue shinobis without trouble. What I'm more worried about is Shino Aburam said while a lot of bugs came out of his clothes and swarmed more rogue shinobis. He watched how his ex-team partner, Kiba Inuzuka, continues to knock out more rogue shinobis around him. Suddenly they all felt the ground shake and looked up in the same direction that Shikamaru was looking in that moment that, to be honest, Shino confirmed while signaling in that direction. Yeah, we should finish here fast. If Naruto was forced to use even a little of Kurama's chakra as he just did, then something definitely is going on there said a brown-haired beauty that had it in a twin bun style and beautiful brown-colored eyes and wearing a Chinese-style dress, making everyone around her nod affirmatively and move faster to help Naruto in any way he needed so. No seriously Hiashi-san, if this is the level of the rogue elite shinobis of the Hyuga clan, I think it needs a lot of reforming to happen in it, Naruto said while he thumbed behind himself over his shoulder with his right hand while giving said person a wide grin smirk that somehow made all 3 Hyuga's right eyebrow twitch and feel a little annoyed at him. I think your boyfriend needs a little more lessons in rules of formality, dear daughter Hiashi said looking at Hanabi which made her blush and Hinata getting a frown on her face crossed her arms while Naruto tilts his head looking confused because he was supposed to be Hinata's boyfriend not Hanabi's, right? Well Odo-sama, I think you got things a little confused, he's not my boyfriend, he's One-E-sama's boyfriend, Hanabi said blushing while she glanced at Naruto, then looked down while she played with her fingers, which made Naruto feel confused, asking himself why was Hanabi blushing. I mean he knows Hinata and himself are a couple now, but was there even a reason for Hanabi to blush? Because last time he could remember she never showed any interest towards him as a man to be with, right? Huh, weird, no one knows what women think. He just tilted his head not knowing what to actually say, and Hinata looking at his confused expression, just got closer to Naruto and hugged him from behind, making him look at her surprised and blush a little because of the close contact, although it felt nice, after all, those huge touching your back, who wouldn't? Yeah, I am Hinata's boyfriend and not Hanabi's, Sir Naruto said, his blush growing more when he felt Hinata press even closer to himself. Off anyways, sir, I think we should be doing something else here right? He said while signaling to the green dome, trying to change the subject and trying hard not to feel the soft of Hinata pressing on his back, even though she herself knew this, she didn't let go of the hug while she was blushing very red. Hiashi just smiled in mirth and shook his head, knowing full well all of this, he just felt good at getting a little form of revenge on his 2 daughters and his future son-in-law, even if things were kinda messy at that moment. Looking behind himself he took in that the barrier was even covering the secret passage where they were supposed to go through, thinking out loud maybe. Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi all turned to listen to Hiashi when suddenly a huge arm that resembled some kind of scaly paw appeared from the dome and grabbed him, which surprised them and made all of them spring to action when the appendage was pulling inside the dome. Haki Kekishima Hanabi and Hinata said together hitting the appendage from afar and making it free Hiashi. Naruto instantly transformed into Sage mode and used his left arm to hold the scaly paw in place. With his other hand, he took a kunai out of his holster and surrounded it in wind chakra and swung it cutting through it, dismembering the appendage while he contemplated with a serious face what was happening. Growl, something isn't right, this just upgraded from being a simple rebellion to a full-blown terrorist attack, it looks like we need to up our game too. He said, watching the strange dismembered appendage disappear in little black particles. He sensed something dark inside the dome. Naruto knew that things were going to escalate quickly, so letting go of the natural chakra inside his body, he transformed into Kurama mode and formed a huge chakra appendage which resembled an open palm and charged an Udama Rasengan, aimed and thrust it towards the dome, while the three Hyugas watched and waited, knowing that Naruto is the only one able to pull it off. He pushed the Rasengan into the wall of the dome, at the same time using the same appendage and a palm thrust to hit the dome, making the ground shake because of the force behind it. They looked how the dome started getting spider cracks on it until it finally was destroyed and made the loud sound of glass that is shattering. Nodding to himself, he let go of his power-up and signaled everyone to stick together and follow him with their senses on high alert. Once inside the grounds of the clan, they noticed that there were pulsing seals littered across the ground that had some weird runes surrounding each seal. When they felt nothing happen to them as they stepped on each seal, they assumed that the seals were there to reinforce the barrier that resembled the dome and continued their walk around the estate until finally reaching the central DMJM. What they saw in there took them by surprise. Each Hyuga that was being held hostage was kneeling on the central part of the DMJM, had a pulsing Keigo no Tori no Juin on each of their foreheads, even if they were from the main branch family, and it looked like they were in so much pain, if their open frothing mouth and wide open wide eyes were any indication about it. But what actually surprised Hiashi, Hanabi, Hinata and made Naruto glare furiously was the person standing in front of them. He looked like Hiashi, but a few years older, although his age marks were disappearing so fast you would have thought it was Hiashi himself. Ah, finally the big players came into the game, huh? The eldest Hyuga said while he smirked in their direction. Congrats for making it here this fast, even though none of you should have been alive at this point already. What with the moon crashing on us and those two Hyuga bitches, they should have already been married to that feminine looking guy that I had a meeting with about 3 months ago. So I even went so far as to brainwash him, telling him that it was a decree from centuries ago, that he should have married you, and whatnot. Ha, young ones these days can't even do a simple thing and get rid of the annoying pests that want to mess up the order that our esteemed clan has had for more than a few centuries living here in Konoha, the elder Hyuga said, while flexing his arms and legs. Why do this? What do you gain by trying and failing a coup d'etat that will get you nowhere in the end? Naruto asked, his eyes narrowing fiercely while looking at the elder Hyuga. Ah, but if it isn't the great Kono yo no Kakashi, why do you pry and ask if thou are near scumbag such as them? Don't tell me, finally that failure of a Hyuga decided to confess her feelings for you and someone such as yourself that is starved for affection, just accepted her like nothing, huh? Ahahaha, laughed insanely the elder Hyuga while his right hand was on his forehead and he slid it down his face and showed his tongue like a madman. Growl, don't you dare talk about Hinata like that, you frigging, because I'm gonna make you bow down and apologize to her. Naruto shouted, glaring really hard, noticing how the eerie green glow on the head of the hostages wasn't stopping at all, while their chakra is being slowly siphoned from them and entered the eldest Hyuga. He noticed how the chakra reserves of the Hyuga were growing slowly by the minute. He wonders how to save the hostages, because if they run out of chakra they were going to die and he got worried because of it. Maybe there was a possibility to stop all this madness. Hinata and Hanabi, noticing the look on Naruto's face, knew he was analyzing the situation around himself really fast and preparing to beat down their enemy without suffering any casualties at all, nodded to each other and stood by each of Naruto's side. They activated their Byakugan and stood in the Jiken position. No words were said by either side, while Hiashi just stood on the sidelines, wondering why his own father would go so far to do things like this. If needed he would intervene, although in his weakened condition, he was gonna save his energy for the final attack if necessary, but what actually bothered him was how his father could look so young. Taking a closer look at the hostages he noticed that all of them were kneeling on another giant runes that were glowing on the floor. He remembered watching those weird runes once which were in an old-looking book that was in the Hyuga library, but no one in the clan ever took interest in it because it was unreadable to everyone. It looks like he was wrong. Wait. Now that he took a really close look he noticed that the book was open in a reading altar behind where his father is standing. Activating his Byakugan, he noticed that the book was blank and it had a weird design on the cover that looked much too similar to a demonic eye. He didn't get worried though, because even with all the power-ups his father was going through, he couldn't even hope to match the massive chakra that Naruto had, which was even greater than the last time he remembered. Although what really surprised him the most was his own daughter's chakra, that was 3 times bigger than his own in his prime. That's why he didn't feel worried at all. So he just sat down on the wooden floor of the DMJM, closed his eyes and started meditating quietly, making everyone else stop the intense staring and turn their heads to look at him weirdly. What? Hiashi asked, not even bothering to open his eyes. Nothing, I guess, it's just so weird to see you Oto-sama so relaxed in this situation, Hanabi said while a huge sweat drop was behind her head. It's not like you can't handle my father, after all, even with all that power up he has on himself, you guys are even stronger than him, Hiashi said while sipping a cup of tea that no one knows where it came from, making even the hostages looking like zombies have a sweat drop behind their heads. Is that even possible? I guess it is. Sigh shaking his head, Naruto turned back to face the rogue Hyuga and finished this mess once and for all. Noticed that the elder wasn't in front of them, looking beneath himself, he reacted fast enough and pushed the girls besides him hard, putting them away from the range of the familiar yin-yang seal of the Shugahaki Rikujikin SHM, which appeared beneath himself and the eldest Hyuga. He felt like a freight train was hitting him every time a palm touched his body, making his eyes go wide. Naruto-kun. Yelled both Hyuga girls with wide eyes from their position on the floor and watched as Naruto took the full brunt of the attack meant for the three of them. Once the attack finished, Naruto knelt down holding his stomach with his arms gripping it really hard and coughed immeasurable amounts of blood until finally he stopped moving. Hiashi was wide-eyed, seeing that his distraction worked against them and not against his father as he expected, then got even more surprised when his father appeared before him and felt a palm thrust hit him on the solar plexus, making him gasp and cough a lot of spit which made him pass out. Move it everyone, we are close to reaching the Hyuga estate, now that the weird glowing dome is no longer surrounding it, we can safely pass through it, said one Kiba in Inuzuka, while riding his dog Akamaru, which barked loudly, looking behind himself, Kiba noticed that everyone else was running faster to get closer to the compound. Jumping over the wall they noticed from their aerial position some weird glowing seals and runes painted around on the grounds of the estate. What is going on, what are these things? Rock Lee asked as he noticed and felt like he was being surrounded by a dark presence thanks to the eerie glowing runes. It doesn't matter what the seals do, we need to get closer to the central DMJM. Naruto informed me that that's where the hostages are being held, Kakashi said to everyone around him, making them nod affirmatively and walk faster to reach the DMJM. Once they were at about 5 meters from the place, they felt the ground beneath them shake and saw the front wall of the structure get spider cracks. They heard the wall groan loudly in protest until it finally gave in and saw a huge hole break open in it. They saw how a human-sized missile was launched from it to the front walls of the Hyuga estate and get embedded to them. They were surprised to see a person that looked much similar to one Hiashi Hyuga, but on closer inspection they noticed he looked older, and what actually put them on edge was that instead of being unconscious the elder just laughed while getting out of the wall, stretching his limbs. They felt his chakra getting bigger by the minute. The second thing they noticed was Naruto standing on the other side of the hole in the wall of the DMJM, with his right arm outstretched in the form of a fist and glaring in the direction the human-sized missile just went through, while his eyes were in the distinct shape of the Senin mode. Naruto, what's happening? Why are you so angry? Sakura asked looking at her ex-team partner who was too quiet from the last moments they saw each other. Naruto just limited himself to look at her and the others from the right side of his face, which made them freeze and take a step back in fear because they had never seen Naruto be so pissed off before. They noticed that kneeling behind him were Hinata and Hanabi holding in their arms a passed out Hiashi, while glaring in the same direction of the madly laughing elder, while the hostages on the other side of the DMJM were bending over backwards with their arms wide open, looking like they were in even more pain than before. You, using your own kin to withstand the damage you take, now I'm really pissed off and I'm gonna make you wish you never pulled this shit off, after hearing you boast about planning everything, from the moon crashing to my girlfriend and her sister been married off to Toneri. You really have pushed the wrong buttons, and I'm fucking gonna kill you, Naruto said out loud and in such a cold tone that made everyone shiver and sweat nervously, except for the girls that were behind himself still caring for their father. Kurama, do you think the seals that are helping him are working the same way as it did when I transferred your chakra to the people in the war, but instead of making them stronger, works backwards? It looks like it does, to be honest. I was thinking of interrupting their chakra flow by activating the seals on their foreheads, asking your mate to do it by using the cursed seal itself, but it looks like they feel the pain and are meat shield for the Hyuga, which only leaves us with the options of killing the hostages or freeing them from the seals and runes on them, and if it works as I think it does, then that means that this chakra transfer is not as pure as yours is. So if we can make it so that your chakra disrupts the functionality of the seals from the inside, then we can break them free, while corrupting the function of the weird runes too that is making them stay put in their place, Kurama considered, watching everything unfold around his host. 3 clones instantly appearing in front of him separated and moved locations. The first clone moved behind himself and entering Kurama mode, transferred some chakra to Hinata and told her what Kurama had planned. The second and third one transformed into Kurama Senin mode, one appeared outside the walls of the clan and started surrounding it in a huge amount of the distinctive yellow-orange chakra of Kurama and himself. The other one appeared in front of his friends and using hand seals, he pushed his hand on the ground and said Doten Dorikeki, making a huge wall of earth appear in front of them and instantly a huge chakra head in the form of Kurama surround them. What are you doing, Naruto? Sakura asked for the first time, unsure of what her ex-team partner was thinking. Yeah, I'm curious too, Naruto, why use so much power? Because even now you dwarf the eldest Hyuga's one, I'm honestly confused, Shino asked as he watched Naruto go overkill, even though he could have won easily. The thing is that boss doesn't want the bastard to escape, nor he wants you guys to see what is actually going to happen. We're pretty pissed off, to be quite honest. The bastard pushed the wrong buttons, especially when he said that he was going to sell Hinata and Hanabi off to be some fucking sex toys. He clone growled and continued pumping chakra through the technique. I see, well that's something, you know what, I don't even have a word for this troublesome situation, just don't destroy things around us too much, Shikamaru said while looking at his friend worriedly. Yeah, not gonna happen, sorry, the clone said, while keeping his eyes closed. Ah. Jaya. They grimaced when they felt the ground shake and saw how the wall that was covering them was getting spider cracks every time another shockwave was felt from the other side of the wall. They saw a huge cloud of dirt rise and thought that was the end, so they waited for the clone to let go of his techniques. But when he didn't, they were gonna ask why and instead were answered when they heard the distinctive screeching sound of the Rasen Shuriken. It was so loud it made their ears hurt until finally they saw the distinctive huge dome from the expansion of Naruto's most powerful technique in its base form. Finally letting the techniques drop, the clones allowed everyone to see what actually happened, and what they saw surprised them. There in the middle of a huge crater made out of sand in front of them, Naruto was standing and lifting up by the neck with his left hand the eldest Hyuga, which had no hands and no legs, and in his right hand was a brightly glowing futon. Rasengan aimed to finish off the traitor. When he saw everyone else looking at him surprised and a little scared, he just let the guy drop unceremoniously on the ground and turned around to walk to where Hinata was keeping a close eye on the unconscious but safe hostages. Once he reached her, she looked up and gave him a soft smile, which he returned and then helped her. He turned his face and looked at them, then smiled sheepishly while he scratched his nose with his right hand, feeling embarrassed. No one could believe what they saw, they were speechless. After all, they never saw Naruto be so brutal before. They just looked how he walked back to Hinata, and they smiled at each other, as if nothing had ever happened. Okay, I admit that Naruto pissed off actually looks kinda cool and made me a little flustered, said Ino and Tenten together, while Sakura just nodded slowly, not wanting to draw attention on her. Noticing everything was alright, the clones just disappeared like they never existed from the beginning, bringing everyone out of their stupor. They saw how Naruto pulled Hinata up and hugged her closer and gave her a quick peck on her lips, which made her blush, and Hanabi on the background coo, while Hiashi, been unconscious, just lifted his right hand in the thumbs up position, which made them sweat drop, thinking maybe he was only feigning. As the couple were getting closer, they tried to approach, but Naruto lifted his right hand signaling them to stop, and they were curious why until they saw the couple approach the downed Hyuga. This is over, in the end you gained nothing doing all of this and forced me to cripple you forever, which I regret, but never mind that, just stop all this, Naruto said in a cold tone, while his girlfriend was by his side with a serious face. Both were waiting on the elder to speak, but what no one noticed was that all the runes that were glowing before suddenly stopped glowing and retracted to where the crippled Hyuga was and were scribbling like a sealing technique. Once the array was done, the downed Hyuga started laughing madly, which worried everyone. They did notice something weird though, which was that neither Naruto nor Hinata were moving from the center of the seal, and the array was starting to crawl on their body over their clothes. Ahahahaha. I may not live another day after this is done, but at least I'll be taking out the oh so great Hiro-sama and his failure of a girlfriend with me. Banishment of the damned, he said while the runes and seals surrounding the men in their body started glowing a bright green color, while another seal appeared on the upper part of them and form a huge circle with a yin-yang symbol in the middle of it. The elder, please stop, this is going too far, Hinata said, struggling to get free. She noticed that Naruto was struggling too. Why do this? I don't get it at all. We never did anything wrong against you or anyone else. What are you gonna gain if you are dead after this? Naruto said while transforming into Kurama Sennin mode, but even then he noticed he couldn't move freely like he wanted to. Looking at his left side, he noticed Hinata too expelling chakra to try and free herself, so he put more chakra to break free, but it looked like the chakra was making the sealing even stronger. AM suggestion. Restart Re-Zero Kara Hajimeru Isekai Sakatsu, Hinata, Naruto-kun, both said while they struggled really hard and forcefully held each other's hand. They transferred chakra to each other, trying even harder to free themselves. They noticed each of their friends trying to help them, but an invisible wall was holding them back. Meanwhile the seals were glowing brighter than before. Then they noticed how they started to disappear slowly from their feet to their ankles to their legs. They turned their face to look at their friends and gave them a peaceful smile, then turned back to look at the madly grinning Hyuga, which was dead when the technique started, and finally they saw each other's face and gave each other a serene smile. I love you, they said to each other while expelling insane amounts of chakra together, knowing that no matter what, they were gonna die, but at least they were going to die together. Ay. was heard across the village of Konoha, making everyone else that was helping in the civilian evacuation stop and look in the Hyuga compound direction. Naruto. Hinata. Their friends could only watch and yell in horror as their friends and new couple vanished in front of them in particles of light and disperse into the night air as if they never existed, leaving them in shock. "Please but you, just finish this," said a brown-haired teen with his left hand covered in what looked like a red gauntlet that went up to his elbow, using some kind of uniform which highly resembled a school uniform from a civilian school, getting away from a girl that was really battered in front of him and walked to the back of the people around him. "No one harms my cute servants and lives to tell it," said a buxom girl in a distinguishable female uniform of the same school, although what was more eye-catching of the teenage girl was her crimson hair and her beautiful green-blue eyes, which were narrowed while glaring at the same girl that resembled an angel which had black wings sprouting from her back. She lifted her arm and opening her hand, a magical rune surrounded by circles appeared in front of her, while a pure ball of darkness appeared in front of it and was launched to the girl on the ground that was frozen in fear. Once the ball hit her, it made her disappear and leave only a scorch mark where the angel look-alike once stood. The only thing that was left where there once stood a body was an object floating while it was surrounded by a glowing green dome the size of a small ball. Noticing this, she got closer and touched it, trying to grab it with both of her hands, but once she did, the floating dome made a chime sound like that of wind bells, which made her wary, and she took 5 steps back, feeling wary of the object in front of her. Suddenly behind the object, a very bright green magic seal with a yin-yang rune in the middle of it appeared and started glowing brightly with the same color as the dome where the sacred gear Twilight Healing was, until finally the unexpected happened and a massive wave of purple and orange energy was expelled from the middle of it in a shockwave form. "Everyone, brace yourselves," she yelled while covering her eyes with both her arms crossed in front of her. Her peerage following her example did the same until the wave of energy hit each and every one of them, sending all of them sailing backwards and crashing onto the walls of the abandoned church they were in. "Kaya. Ga. Naya. Gaha. Kaya." Each of them yelled when they got encrusted in the walls. They noticed they weren't been pushed against the walls anymore and dropped their arms to see what actually happened. They noticed something really weird appear behind the sacred gear, which were 2 pairs of legs, then a pair of torsos, and finally a pair of arms and heads, but they couldn't distinguish any exact feature until the bright glow finally stopped. What they noticed was that the left and right arm of the 2 unknown persons in front of them were holding each other very tightly. Where are we?" asked a very masculine voice, noticing the weird surrounding he was in and been very wary of it. I don't know," said a distinctive feminine voice, noticing the weird surroundings as the one besides her did. Drip 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 was the distinctive sound of drops hitting wooden floor heard quietly in the middle of the night inside the abandoned church which was located just outside of the quiet town called Kuo. "Here's WWYY?" asked quietly a beautiful girl with long crimson hair and beautiful blue-green eyes while her teeth were grinding against each other because of the frustration she felt in that moment. "Why are you attacking us? Who are you two?" Riaz asked out loud while she fought desperately with herself to stay awake as a little trail of blood ran down the right corner of her lips. She looked down in the direction of her and saw a feminine palm touching between them. She stumbled forward and before losing all consciousness, lifted her head one last time to watch the eyes of the person that had knocked out her queen Akeno Himejima some minutes ago. Behind her assailant she could glimpse for the last second how her newest pawn Isay Hyman, last standing member of her peerage, was knocked out with a chop to the neck. "Just who?" she whispered falling asleep on the glove-covered arms of her mysterious assailant. "I'm sorry," said a beautiful young woman that looked to be in her 19s reaching her 20s with long black hair that reached past her back, which was glowing a soft indigo color thanks to the rays of moonlight that were passing through the big hole on the roof of the abandoned church. She was wearing what appeared to be a black formal dress that one wears in weddings and long gloves were covering her hands to her elbows. She looked down to the girl on her arms. She regretted doing this, but after what they just witnessed they needed to be sure that nothing bad did actually happen inside the place they were in that moment. "Are we gonna leave them here, Naruto-kun?" asked a girl a little worried, still holding and looking at the sleeping face of the young woman she just knocked out. After some minutes she turned her face around to look at the person behind her when she heard his steps get closer to her and one could notice her beautiful eyes, which were white pearls with a hint of lavender on them. The person in question was a tall young man that looked to be in his 19s reaching his 20s with bright blue eyes that shone brightly through the dark place they were in. 3 whiskers birthmarks on each of his cheeks and his short blonde hair, which was unruly, looked like it was sparkling thanks to the same rays of moonlight, while his forehead was covered by some black leather headband with a metal plate with a weird insignia on the middle of it. He was wearing a white shirt and orange combat pants that reached before his ankles, and his ankles were covered in black sandals that looked sturdy enough to withstand any kind of damage, while bandages were wrapped up on the right leg of the pant, which was holding some kind of long and thin clothes pouch. Behind his pants were 2 more pouches that were been held by a leather belt. If one looked closer, one could notice the young man had a contemplative look on his face while in his arms he was holding young woman that was sleeping peacefully, if the quiet breathing coming out from her was any indication. The most noticeable thing about this young woman was her bright blonde hair that reached past her back and that she only had a big black leather jacket covering her naked body. No, he shook his head. We are taking them with us, here, carry her, I'll bind them up for easy transportation, Hinata said Naruto, while he made another clone appear by his side which took the red-haired woman from Hinata, and then he passed the sleeping girl on his arms to his girlfriend. When his girlfriend had the sleeping girl safe on her arms, he proceeded to take out a chakra binding rope from his back pouches, which worked like any other rope, but the quirk to it was that, if the user applied chakra to it, he or she could make the rope stronger, and it could siphon the chakra of the tied up person too. He passed the rope to his clones which then started binding each person that were unconscious around them. Don't you think we went a little overboard here, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked as she watched her boyfriend tie up the last person on the floor, which was a young girl if her body complexion was any indication, although what did actually pique her interest a little were the two cat ears coming out of her head and tail coming from behind her back. Cute, she thought while she accommodated the blonde girl on her arms so she could run faster while carrying her. I don't think so, Hinata, after all we only want to interrogate them, right? I mean, after what we just saw and felt, don't you think it is better that we interrogate them peacefully and not while we are been suddenly attacked like the brown-haired idiot and the black-haired bimbo just did out of nowhere, right? Naruto said, watching in the direction where a clone was carrying each person described over their shoulders without a care in the world like they were potato sacks. Oh, you two be more careful. They are persons, not a sack of potatoes, yelled Naruto in a low voice as to not interrupt the slumber of their charges. Hinata only watched all this transpire around her with a huge sweat drop appearing behind her head. Maybe this isn't such a good idea, she thought to herself while they started walking out of the church. Once outside of it, they looked around themselves and started running in the direction of the forest while carrying all the teenagers with them because they wanted to pass unperceived, and going into the city they saw on the other side wasn't gonna help them. Soon they disappeared inside the canopy of the huge forest in front of them like they never even existed. While all of this happened, a shadow looming on the broken roof of the church watched silently everything unfold as if it was watching one of those anime shows that he's rarely seen. How from 1 second all his plans went to hell and beyond to suddenly feel like a little hope was being given back to him when the strange assailant started taking out Rias and her peerage like they were simple flies to again feel a deep void form inside him when his actual target, one Asia Argento, was breathing again and very much alive and in the arms of the weird blonde and then on the indigo-haired girl. First the weird blonde guy was looking around himself and after some seconds saw him tense up and look the direction of where Asia's dead body was to finally look down where the sacred gear twilight healing was. He saw how the blonde guy turned his head to his partner and said something to her quietly, and because of the distance where he was he couldn't hear what they were saying, but thought that maybe he told his partner to get ready because suddenly his partner tensed up too and moved her body to stand in a weird position he had never seen before. Suddenly he grabbed the sacred gear twilight healing from the ground and appeared in front of Asia while his right hand, which was covered in bandages, started glowing a bright orange color. He saw how the blonde guy knelt by her side and just shoved his hand holding the sacred gear inside her dead body without drawing blood. After some minutes he watched fascinated how Asia gasped and started breathing normally while the color returned to her features. Finally, when the strange blonde was getting away from her slowly, he was suddenly attacked by a lightning bolt from the queen of the Grimoire group and he saw how everything suddenly stopped in that moment because he thought that maybe the blonde enigma was dead, but wasn't he wrong? He noticed how a thin layer of the weird energy that appeared on his right hand was shielding him from the damage that he was supposed to take on the right part of his body. He noticed how each member of the Grimoire group suddenly took a step back in fear and some seconds after that, things went to hell because seconds after their freeze up the pawn of Ria's Grimoire, like magic suddenly ran ever so slowly to where the blonde guy was while yelling, "Leave Asia alone, you bastard." Only to be hit by a soft palm from the indigo-haired girl that suddenly appeared in front of him. He thought they were a pushover when he saw the pawn didn't even budge at all, but got surprised only 1 second later when he saw how the pawn suddenly coughed a lot of blood and was sent sailing to get embedded in a wall again. After that he saw how the rook of Rias, Kaneko TMJM, a cute petite white-haired girl with a black cat pin on her hair which was in a short bob cut style, started shivering and took more steps back while her golden eyes widened in fear and her neckish features appeared involuntarily. Then she started holding herself while she hyperventilated hard until finally the stress she was going through overcame her and made her pass out because of the shock. He just shook his head while an amused smile appeared on his lips because he thought that it was funny to watch her break for the first time like that. Suddenly the indigo-haired girl appeared in front of the Queen of Rias, whose moniker is Ikazuchi no Maiko, Akeno Himejima, a beautiful girl with long black hair, tied in a long ponytail, which was held by an orange ribbon, which has two strands of hairs coming out from the upper part of it, and touched her stomach, which made the queen open her beautiful violet eyes very wide and double over, with a pain-filled expression on her face, as she fell forward losing consciousness. This made the knight of the Grimoire group get out of his stupor and spring into action, appearing behind their assailant with a raised sword, only for a loud crack be heard from where he was, because he saw how the weird blonde appeared with his right fist extended right behind where the indigo-haired girl was, and the knight get embedded against the wall while losing consciousness with his mouth wide open while blood came out from it. Looking back again where he thought Asia was alone, he thought that maybe this was a good opportunity to grab her and run, only to be surprised when he saw the same blonde guy standing there, only this time he didn't have his black jacket on him and was holding Asia protectively in his arms, which was now covered by the offending piece of cloth in his mind, so he decided to just wait and watch everything unfold. He saw how the pawn of Ria's Grimoire got himself out of the wall again while yelling, "Leave Asia alone, you bastards." Until he was silenced by another blonde guy with the same features as the original that appeared in front of him. He winced when he heard another loud crack reach his ears and noticed how the blonde guy had his left fist on the solar plexus of the pawn and was finally taken out by a chop to the neck. He looked back to where Ria's was when he heard her yell out loud, "Who are you two?" and noticed how the indigo-haired girl had her right hand between her until finally she stumbled forward and passed out on the arms of her assailant. He noticed how Ria's Grimoire had tears running along her cheeks, which he assumed was because she was too shocked to see her peerage fall down so easily. After some minutes he finally heard what he really wanted to, and those were two names that got stuck in his head, Naruto-kun and Hinata. Finally he saw how Naruto grabbed Ria's from the arms of Hinata and gave Asia to her. Well, he took out some ropes and started binding each member of Ria's peerage. He followed them and watched them go outside while holding Ria's and her peerage captive until finally they all disappeared in the middle of the night and forest. "You may have escaped for now, Asia-chan, but I'll have you no matter what. Just wait, I will have you, and when I'm done breaking you and making you my slave, I'll go for that beautiful girl that is holding you right now too, Hinata. Just wait, you'll both be mine," said the strange figure, while a magic circle appeared beneath his feet, which made him disappear after some seconds. When the weird shadow disappeared entirely, he never noticed how the space behind where he once stood distorted, slowly showing the head of another clone of Naruto, which was using Misegakure no Jutsu to conceal its features and had narrowed eyes until it disappeared in a cloud of smoke like it never existed from the beginning. 1.5 km away from the church and inside the wide lush forest. "Naruto-kun, did you notice?" Hinata said while running by the side of her boyfriend. She had her Byakugan activated and the unconscious girl was riding on her back while they were jumping from tree to tree inside the lush forest they were traveling through. "Yeah, it looks like in the end we did attract unwanted attention on us. We gotta be ready, because the moment he mentioned going for you, he made this personal, and no one tries a single thing against my precious people, especially against my girlfriend," Naruto said with a serious face, which made Hinata blush a little because of the "my girlfriend" comment while they're jumping on the forest canopy continued. "Remember why I told you to activate your Byakugan, Hinata?" Naruto asked her, keeping his face in front while they jumped from tree to tree. "Yeah, you sensed this girl and those weird rings we saw earlier pulse together slowly, that their pulsing was so low you thought they were dying because they were separated from each other. This is one of the reasons I love you, Naruto-kun, because you help everyone even if they never asked for it." Hinata smiled brightly at him, which made Naruto lose his serious face and look at her surprised while a blush appeared on his cheeks. He turned his face around to look in front again, a little flustered, which only made Hinata giggle. I'm not that great to Bayo," Naruto said after some seconds, which only made Hinata giggle some more as they continued their jumping, getting even farther away from civilization and from the place they once were in. The news reached across the elemental nations like a fire spreads inside a dry forest. Naruto, Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga, the ones that helped stop the moon from crashing against them, were dead, not even a trace of their body left. Information was sent through all the nations that a huge funeral was gonna be held for the recently formed couple that died while protecting their village courageously, which made fantastical stories began to be written in the elemental nations about how the couple fought valiantly against dragons and other mythical beings that appeared out of nowhere to protect their home, even at the cost of their own life. Why let all this farce happen? It isn't true, it isn't true. Ani-sama and Wani-sama are not dead. "They aren't dead," yelled a crying and shivering Hinabi Hyuga while she was holding her father very hard. She didn't want to accept, nor was she never gonna accept, that her Wani-sama and Ani-sama were dead. They had to be alive somewhere, she knew it inside her, they had to be. "Please make this farce stop, father. These are all lies," she said with tears leaking down her cheeks freely until she finally passed out on the arms of her frowning father, knowing that his youngest still couldn't overcome the tragic deaths of Naruto and Hinata. Sai, I wish I could assure you that what you are saying is all true, my dear daughter, Hiashi said, looking at his youngest while he played with her long brown hair. But I can't, he whispered softly, getting the sleeping Hanabi closer to his chest and holding her softly but tightly while 3 lonely tears fell from his closed eyes inside the central DMJM where they were seated in. I don't get it, there are no traces nor leftover ink spots anywhere in this whole place. There's not a single clue how that old guy could set up that damn seal, or how it works, only a simple blank book with a troublesome weird design on its cover. There's not even a single letter or something for a little bit of information to help us, and the funeral is only 2 days away. Rearing its ugly head to stop it, Shikamaru Nara, Jonin of Konohagakure no Sato said, while taking a huge breath from his 5th cigarette of the night. He was really tired. He has been working non-stop for the last 5 days when his 2 friends disappeared in front of him like they were simple dust that the wind blows away. Looking around himself, he noticed how all the friends of Naruto and Hinata inside the village were tired too. Well, they kept searching the last spot in their wide search for clues on how to get Naruto and Hinata back. My drawings haven't found anything, neither, not even a single hair or anything, and I've been searching more than 3 times in different spots, said Sai, Jonin of Konohagakure no Sato, gritting his teeth, ripping another sheet of paper from his sketchbook. He crumbled it on his hands, showing how frustrated he was feeling in that moment. Bark, you're telling me there's no scent of blood, chakra or anything like that left over either? It's like they just disappeared like magic, and not a chakra seal, Kiba in Yuzuka, Jonin of Konohagakure no Sato said, looking unceremoniously around himself, feeling a little angsty, but bored at the same time, because of the lack of clues, after his loyal partner Akamaru barked in confirmation. Are you kidding me? We saw them disappear, each of us saw the seal appear, and the weird elders say the name of the technique, which we don't know a thing at all how it works. That's why we've been trying really hard to find any friggin' clues on how that thing worked at all. Yelled and exasperated Ino Yamanaka from her position on the other side of the gardens. She looked disheveled, and because of the lack of sleep from the last 5 days, she was tired and really irked in that precise moment. She just lost her second best friend aside from Sakura, and watch her disappear with her hunk of a boyfriend, which she got a little interested from the pain invasion, but was never gonna try a thing on him because of Hinata. It actually made her feel useless, and now Hinata's ex-team partner had the gall to look bored, which really started pissing her off. Calm down, Ino, we all were there when it happened. We need to keep looking, just continue searching for a single clue. Even the hint of a clue works in our favor, Sakura Haruno said from behind her while searching around some bushes. She sounded determined, but in reality was really tired too. Each of them had been coming and going constantly to get food, take baths and so. But once they did their daily necessities, they started all over again searching for any clue. It was starting to grate on their nerves, and the envoys of the other villages and Naruto and Hinata's friends from other parts around the elemental nations were expected to arrive the next day, meaning they only had today to find even the hint of a clue. Yeah, sorry about my carelessness, I'll keep searching around, Kiba said again while he walked away to another section of the garden with his partner Akamaru. This is too troublesome, I just hope that wherever you both are, you are okay, Shikamaru said out loud and thought inside himself while he took another big deep breath of his cigarette and looked up at the night sky. You said it, Shino Aburam, Jonin of Konoha said while more of his bugs came back without a clue inside him, which only made him sigh in frustration. So, are you finally going to say something, Kurama said, opening his right eye, looking at the tiny humanoid figures in front of him while his head was resting over his crossed paws. Who are you? Said a beautiful blonde-haired woman dressed in a very revealing Maiko outfit. Kurama noticed she has beautiful golden-colored eyes, long blonde hair that reached past her shoulders and finished just before it reached her butt. What got Kurama actually more interested were the 2 fox ears on her head and 9 tails swaying nervously from side to side behind her. Me? Why should I tell you? Kurama asked as he closed his eye again and got more comfortable on his paws. He really wanted to rest more after the shits that his friend Naruto has gone through the last few days. He really needed a break, and it was a good thing that Naruto had his girlfriend by his side, because he knew that he wasn't very supportive in the feelings department. That's why he was really glad that the female Hyuga was there with him on this mess. Why, you ask? How about the fact that when I was starting my daily meditation routine, after I closed my eyes for a few seconds, I find myself in front of another Kyuubi that is almost 7 times bigger than myself in my true form, or the fact that we've been here staring at each other for what feels like hours while you just slept. The fox woman ranted to Kurama, which made her look a little cute in his opinion. Wait, what? Where did that thought come from? Kurama wondered to himself. Snort, first off, we weren't staring at each other, you just suddenly appeared inside the mindscape of my host, uninvited mind you, and kept gaping at me with such sparkling eyes that were starting to get on my nerves. That's why I decided to just ignore you and keep resting, because I haven't had an opportunity to do so in the last 7 hours or so, Kurama said with his eyes still closed while he snorted again as the smell of pheromones the fox woman in front of him was expelling tried to invade his senses. Second, can you please tell your kid there that I'm not your mate? I have never ever met you before, so explain it to her that this is the first time we meet and make her shut up, Kurama said, opening his eye again looking at the almost identical copy of the beautiful woman in front of him, but just in a cuter and tinier version. That was looking between himself and the strange woman with starry eyes and asking her if finally her father had come to see them. Third, isn't it common courtesy to first introduce yourself before asking a question? Or do you people in this place not know common courtesy? Kurama said, closing his eye again and getting more comfortable knowing that maybe this could take a while and remembering how the black-haired girl and brown-haired boy tried to sneak attack Naruto. Ahem, yes, that's true. I'm sorry for being quite the rude uninvited guest, but you got to understand I was surprised to suddenly appear in front of another Kyuubi, because I know I am the last one of my species with my kid here. The fox woman answered with a little blush on her face, while she bowed lowly, showing she had nothing restraining her bountiful, except her loose kimono, while the tip of one tail of Kurama got closer to the kid and started touching her, which made the little girl giggle and laugh giddily. Kurama just opened his right eye again and looked at the bowing woman and then turned his line of sight to the little kid playing with the tip of his tail. I see, so that's why this place is different, Kurama said out loud more to himself than to the other two in front of him, which made the fox woman lift her head and look at him confused while she tilted her head, mulling the words of the male Kyuubi. Kurama, noticing her questioning gaze, just closed his eye again and said, it's not something you need to be concerned about, while his tail continued playing with the little kid. Anyways, again, I'm sorry for my rudeness, she said while she stopped bowing and looked at her daughter. Sweetie, come here please, which made the little kid turn around to look at her and pout a little. We need to introduce ourselves, sweetheart, now come here, okay? She said, looking a little worried, looking how her daughter was hugging the furry appendage that appeared in front of her daughter Kunu again. Don't worry, I'm not about to kill your little kid just because you're different Kyuubis. I'm something more than just a wild beast, you know, Kurama said, while the right side of his mouth lifted in a teasing smirk. Right, sorry for doubting you, it's just, I haven't had very good interactions with another of my own kind. Going back to the real matter, my name is Yasaka, I'm the last mature Kyuubi, leader of the Yaka faction that resides in Kyoto, and the little kid that is playing with your tail right now is my beloved daughter Kunu and rightful successor of the Yaka faction. Yasaka introduced herself, politely bowing again, which made Kurama open his eye again, looking at her closely to notice if she was telling any lies, but could find nothing to indicate so. Deciding that the staring was enough, Kurama just closed his eye again and sighed, raising its front legs. Kurama took a seated position. I guess that leaves me. I am Kurama Tsutsuki, Kyuubi no Kitsune of Konohagakure no Sato, and friend partner of Naruto Uzumaki, although I prefer to be called only Kurama, Kurama said, opening his eyes and looking down to the female Kitsunes in front of him. Naruto Uzumaki? Asked the female fox while she tilted her head looking confused at Kurama. Did someone call me? Said Naruto, appearing in front of Kurama and looking around inside his mindscape. What got him curious though was that when he looked closer, he noticed two other persons with fox features in front of him. Is that you, Kurama? Why do you look so tiny and look like a woman? Asked Naruto, surprised and pointing with his right hand at Yasaka, never taking notice of Kurama behind himself, whom had a huge sweat drop falling from the back of his head, while his front right paw was over his eyes, and he kept shaking his head from side to side in exasperation. Diggle, I see, so this is your friend Uzumaki, Naruto-kun, Kurama-san. I gotta admit he's handsome and very well fit, to be honest, Yasaka said, while she eyed Naruto from head to toe in such a way that made Naruto feel a little uncomfortable and take a step back, only to feel something poke him in the back of his right leg near his hip. Looking around, he took notice how a cute kid that resembled a lot the woman he saw in front him was poking him on his leg, which made him confused, wondering if maybe the little kid was the woman's little sister or daughter, because they resembled each other so much it was kinda cute in its own way. Hi, my name is Kunu and I'm a Kitsune Yakai, are you perhaps my papa? Asked Kunu in such an innocent tone while her tails were swinging from side to side, showing how excited she was to meet a new person that made Yasaka blush and play with her fingers while she looked her daughter interact with the host of Kurama. The sudden question actually made Naruto feel stupefied and at a loss for words. He couldn't form an actual coherent reply, because if he said no, he thought that maybe he was going to make the little kid feel bad, but he couldn't say yes, neither because he wasn't the little kid's dad and he really didn't want to lie to the kid. Looking finally to where Kurama was, he asked with his eyes pleadingly to help him out, which only made Kurama snort and shake his head. Sorry kid, but neither Naruto nor I are your father, and Naruto, remember last time I told you I'm a male Kitsune, not a female, sheesh, Kurama said, knowing that his host had a really soft spot for kids and didn't like making them feel bad at all. Oh, that's too bad, he's handsome too, wish he was my papa, Kunu said while she walked past Naruto and got closer to her mother, whom got a blush on her face when her daughter said she wished Naruto was her father. Anyways Naruto, this is Yusaka, leader of the Yakai faction that resides in the region of Kyoto, and her daughter Kunu, who is her heir, Kurama said in a formal tone introducing Yusaka and Kunu to Naruto, which made Naruto nod at them, while his overall semblance took a 90 superscript A-degree turn and looked very serious. Yusaka noted the change in attitude on Naruto, and it actually made her feel a little flustered how mature he looked on her eyes. Yusaka-san, this idiot hero is Naruto Uzumaki, Jonin of Konohagakure no Satin, its future leader, sage of Mount Mamboku, war hero, and savior of our world, the elemental nations, Kurama said, knowing that even if he gave a little information about their world, they could do nothing because they are dead in a sense in their own world. A pleasure to meet you Naruto-kun, said both mother and daughter bowing respectfully, which made Naruto bow too, showing courtesy. Looking down at their feet, both mother and daughter saw their features start to leave the mindscape. Well, it looks like we will have to cut this meeting short Naruto-kun, Kurama-san, maybe you both could come visit us on Kyoto one of these days to get to know each other better and have more time on our hands. Asked Yusaka looking at both Naruto and Kurama. Sure, we could do that, I'll tell Hinata about it too, I'm sure she'll like to visit a new place, Naruto said with a wide grin, while he had his arms around the back of his head. But when you enter the region, some escorts will be waiting for you, say the password Kitsune Senin, and you'll be directed to us directly, we will be waiting your arrival eagerly, she said smiling softly at them. Wait, we still don't know how long will it take for us to be there, Naruto said, looking at Yusaka worriedly. Don't worry, you are our esteemed honor guests, you can come visit anytime, we will be waiting patiently for you, until then take care and be safe, she said, giving a final soft smile, while Kunu waved giddily at them. Bye-bye, Naruto-kun. Kurama-chan. Was the last thing Naruto and Kurama heard when they saw mother and daughter disappear from the mindscape. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto turned his face and looked at Kurama over his right shoulder, smirking. Bye-bye, Kurama-chan. Asked Naruto with amusement laced in his tone of voice, which only made Kurama grunt and lay down again with his head resting on his front paws. Knowing it was time to stop playing around, Naruto turned fully around and looked at Kurama with a serious face, waiting for Kurama to talk. If you were asking me how did those two enter here, I assure you that I have no idea how they did it, Kurama said with his eyes still closed. But if you take my guess into consideration, then I suppose it's because of the natural chakra in this world, and how when you entered sage mode for an instant to sense that girl you saved earlier, then you made the impossible again, and made it so that your own chakra started affecting the natural chakra in this world. When you gathered natural energy for that instant, I could feel the hatred and every negative emotion that this world had gone through. It's not different than our own, just that in here, there hasn't been someone to unite them. Congratulations Naruto, you are becoming the sage of 6 paths of this world, Kurama said, opening his right eye to look at a surprised Naruto. What are you talking about, Kurama? How can I become the sage of 6 paths if I don't have the Rinnegan or something like that? It shouldn't be possible, asked Naruto, unsure of how he was becoming the new sage of 6 paths. I mean, yeah, he can enter that mode only when it is necessary and manipulate the Gundam to take on powerful enemies, but he didn't see the need to do so because no one in the elemental nations actually could make him feel the need to enter that mode. The proof? Well, in his fight against Toneri, he only entered until his Kurama Senin mod while Toneri was using the Gundam. How? He didn't know. The thing is, there's the proof, not like he was gloating or anything. Let's put it this way, you are a huge walking filter that right now the nature around you is taking an advantage of. Every second that passes it enters you with everything negative that it has, and when it gets out of you, it comes out mixed with your and my chakra, dealing itself without you taking notice of it at all, Kurama said, looking around himself, noticing the changes that the mindscape was starting to go through. He sat up again and kept looking Aaron curiously. So, how did that allow someone else to enter here without noticing, and how comes the hatred and malice isn't affecting you or me? Asked Naruto, still a little confused while he had his right hand holding his chin and arm was crossed over his left one. Naruto, I'm the embodiment of hatred and malice. The hatred in this world is just a joke for me. Well, you have no hatred inside you, in which you could get influenced by the nature around us. Remember, our chakra is basically mixed now, meaning I simply take all of it and you filter for your use, making us stronger than when we were on the elemental nations. Didn't think it was possible, but I simply stopped doubting you long ago, Kurama said in a way that made Naruto look at him with a contemplating face. I see that answers the question of the malice and hatred, but not the other one, said Naruto, looking around himself and noticing his mindscape was starting to look more alive, slowly but surely more alive. Been honest, I think it's because the Yakai faction are chakra users like you and your girlfriend, Kurama said, while his right back paw started scratching his right ear. Wait, does that mean that Hinata is getting stronger too? Asked Naruto, surprised, contemplating the possibility. Yes, as time passes and you two continue to be together, you both come from the same world, meaning that you both are in tune in some way, but hers is a little slower than yours because she doesn't have one of Uzbek inside her to help her, but I don't know how the hatred will affect her to be quite honest. Although I think there's a way you can help her, Kurama said, waving his tails lazily behind him while a teasing smirk appeared on his face. How? Asked Naruto, unsure of making the question because he didn't like the smirk on Kurama's face one bit. Well, I'll put it bluntly so it enters clearly in that hard head of yours, you need to fuck her while in sync with me and using Senin mode so I can help her filter the hatred faster, Kurama said with a smirk never leaving his face. What? There's no way I'm allowing you to see how I have sex with Hinata anytime in the near future. Naruto yelled to Kurama while he had his arms crossed in an X-shaped position in front of himself. Why not? It's not like I'm privy to the mating intercourse of your species. I mean, I was there when Hashirama and Mito conceived Tsunede's father, or when your father and mother conceived you, Kurama said, remembering those times out loud, showing he wasn't really privy to intimate moments. Ah. Nananana, I know nothing, I heard nothing, the life is beautiful, the roses are. Naruto covered his ears and started yelling loudly, trying to ignore the conversation, but stopped once he noticed Kurama looking at him seriously, so he stopped and looked at Kurama. So look, this is not because I'm a pervert or anything like that, but because the hatred and malice in this world will start to affect her in some way, in which way I don't know to be honest, but anything is possible. She could suddenly go on a killing spree and murder everything on her line of sight or become a wanton whore that will spread her legs wide open to anyone that crosses her path, be it man or woman, and you don't want that, do you? Kurama said, looking at Naruto seriously, which only made Naruto look down with a hard glare. So what about? Naruto tried to say. No, I already contemplated it too, but the simple way you transfer her chakra won't work, neither. I need to be really close to both of you while theprosis begins so nothing can go wrong, Kurama said, interrupting what Naruto wanted to say. But then, what about? Naruto tried to say again, but got interrupted again. Look, Naruto, I told you it's not because you are closer or not, the thing is that you already began the process on both herself and you without noticing, because remember before we got wherever we are you, both were sharing chakra in huge amounts, trying to get free of that technique, and even if you both separate, the unfiltered hatred will still continue to affect her. You are both the problem and the solution. As we keep talking, the natural chakra is entering her slowly and will affect her slowly over time. I'm not saying it will affect her right now, but in the future it will. It is better if you two find a way to discuss this quietly and think it over, but knowing your girlfriend, she may accept, just reach a decision together, okay? Kurama said, knowing that Naruto was really attached to his first love and knowing that if he could help them he wasn't going to fail them because Naruto needed this. He saw how Naruto just nodded slowly with a thinking pose. Besides, it's not like you aren't privy to sexual intercourse, neither. I still remember those times when you were with all those girls you saved while on those missions or on other villages, Kurama said with a wide smirk, looking how Naruto stiffened and looked up at him with a blush. But you said I had never been with any girl before. When we met the other hosts of the other guys. Naruto yelled and pointed in Kurama's direction while blushing furiously because he thought Kurama never actually saw him do it with those other girls. All I did say is that you never kissed another girl or were in a relationship with any. I never said you didn't have something more, did I? Kurama said, smirking. A music suggestion. The road continues. Naruto Shippuden asked. "So you annoying overgrown furball," Naruto said with his arms behind his head and looking at Kurama with a wide grin on his face, which made Kurama grunt in annoyance because of the furball comment. Yeah, but you know you," Kurama tried saying, but got interrupted when he saw Naruto extend his right fist to him with a knowing smile. "Hey, you sure are something else," Naruto Kurama thinks to himself while bumping his right fist with Naruto's own with a smile. "Thank you, Kurama, really, thank you a lot," Naruto said. "Don't mention it, besides this can be good for both of you," Kurama said a bit mysteriously, which made Naruto tilt his head in confusion. "Look, your right arm, you may not have noticed, but I did. You are absorbing Hashirama's cells and started regrowing your right arm. Well, the changes on her I don't know what are gonna be, to be honest," Kurama said, giving Naruto a hint on what he meant, which only made Naruto look at his arm surprised and started taking off the bandages to look at it. He noticed the surprised face on Naruto and how his forearm was starting to regain its color, slowly but surely. In some time his arm will be fully his again. "Ahahaha yada tabeo." Naruto shouted excitedly and fist pumping with his right hand. "Well, I think you need to go back now. You've been here for about 3 minutes or so, while your girlfriend keeps looking around for any enemies. See you both when you guys reach a decision," Kurama said while he started to lay down again, which made Naruto get closer to Kurama and pat aside Kurama's massive nose slowly. Then Naruto turned around and started walking away from Kurama. Always looking forward without taking a step back, right? Kurama thinks to himself while he closes his eyes to rest some more. Crackle crackle was the distinctive sound of wood twigs burning on a campfire, while a meditating Naruto finally took one last breath and exhaled, signifying he was back on the real world. Opening his eyes, he noticed something that actually left him surprised, and that was the face of his girlfriend Hinata, very close to his own, and she was looking at him with such intensity that actually made Naruto feel a little conscious. Naruto tried to say but was silenced mid-phrase by a sudden kiss from the rosy lips of Hinata on his own. He closed his eyes and returned the kiss slowly, knowing that it had been long since he last shared a kiss with her. Some seconds into the kiss he noticed though that Hinata suddenly was straddling his lap and her glove-covered arms were circling around his neck, bringing him closer to her and making each other bodies press together. He didn't resist and circled his arms around her hips just over her butt and started massaging her, slowly sliding his hand up and down her back and to her butt, which made a little mewl of happiness leave from their throats together while their lips were still connected. He got surprised when he felt her tongue invade his mouth and started massaging his own, not letting her take advantage on him. He returned the favor, wrapping his own tongue with hers, deepening the kiss and bringing her even closer to him. After 10 seconds of intense deep kissing, they separated from each other, gasping for breath, slowly pressing his forehead against hers. Naruto and Hinata kept looking at each other, neither said a thing. They closed their eyes and slowly but surely their lips started getting closer to each other, wanting to share another deep moment together. Ara, that actually was quite the intense kiss in my opinion. Do you think the woman would be willing to trade spots but you? Asked a soft voice with a hint of teasing on it that made Naruto and Hinata freeze just when their lips were about to touch again. I don't know, that's up for them to decide, after all we are their hostages, right? Said the voice of the second girl just after the first one, a little more serious than the first one, but it had a hint of mirth on it too. Turning their faces in the direction where their hostages were comfortably seated across with their limbs tied up, Naruto and Hinata noticed that the females of the group were wide awake. Naruto accommodated himself to be more comfortable against the tree he was leaning against and in the line of sight of their hostages, while Hinata, with a little blush, accommodated herself to be closer to Naruto and hug him with her left arm over his hip and her head resting against his right shoulder. Although Naruto didn't notice, the girls in front of him did notice that Hinata was glaring at them, maybe because of interrupting her time with her boyfriend. So, I see you are finally awake, and it looks like that somehow we can speak the same language, Naruto said, looking at each female seated across him, taking note that each female had the same kind of uniform, which made him think that maybe they were from the same group or faction, if the little information he got talking with Yasaka on his mind was any indication. Well, one could say each of us is a special type of person, Ria said, narrowing her eyes slightly. When she noticed she couldn't free herself from the rope she was tied with, she noticed from the corner of her eyes that Akeno and Kaneko couldn't free themselves either, which got her struggling a little more. Shing thud was the sound of something sailing and embedding itself in the tree behind her head, which made Ria stop her struggling and open her eyes wide and look behind her. She noticed that a kunai was embedded deep in the bark of the tree. She actually wanted to squeal because of the cool design it had, but refrained herself from doing so because of the situation they were in, and looking down, she noticed some strands of her hair were on the dirt, confirming that the air she felt pass near her ear wasn't just an illusion. Looking back up again, she noticed the gloved arm of the female that knocked her out was extended, and her hand was open in a throwing position, confirming she was the one that threw the kunai. This, in contrast, made Akeno and Kaneko stop struggling too, knowing any false movement could cost them, so they played hostages for now. I don't think that was necessary. I could have just told them that the rope is being constantly reinforced by me, Naruto said, avoiding to call Hinata by her name, knowing right now they needed to be undercover. I know, but that was the fastest way to do so without needing to say too much, Hinata said, purposely avoiding to tell Naruto's name too. Sigh. Okay, sorry about that girls, it's just the spirits are a little high after all. We only wanted to ask some questions, and if you could kindly give us some answers, we'll be willing to let you free, Naruto said, hugging Hinata closer to him with his right arm, knowing that her sudden changes were because of the things that were happening too fast for them. First, sorry about knocking you and your group out, but you got to understand we were suddenly attacked by the girl by your side and the passed out guy behind you, so we only retaliated in self-defense, Naruto said, looking at each mentioned person, which made Ria's nod. Second, if you are wondering, well, you've been knocked out for a day, sorry for being so rough with all of you, although the little cat girl did wake up after some hours, but just decided to not cause trouble because we still had all of you captured. We tried to start a conversation with her, but she didn't even say a single thing, Naruto said, looking at Kaneko, whom only looked to the side with a little blush on her face, knowing she didn't like to get much attention on her. Okay, would you prefer to talk now or wait for your other two members to wake up? Naruto said, getting more comfortable on the tree, knowing this was gonna be an interesting and long talk. "There's no need for that, we are already awake," said one Itokiba, while he sat down and leaned against the tree he was resting just some moments ago. Suddenly a clone of Naruto appeared in front of him and Isay, and lifted them up together and put them beside Kaneko after its deed done. The clone turned around and walked away to continue patrolling the premises. Okay, I'll be blunt and say it, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and the one besides me is Hinata Hyuga, Naruto said, pointing to himself then pointing to Hinata, whom had her head still leaned on Naruto's shoulder, which somehow made Kaneko and Ria's twitch a little like she was insulting them, saying this is mine. Who are you guys? What are you? And which faction do you belong? Asked Naruto, making 3 simple questions which made all the members of the Grimoire peerage stiffen a little. Why do you ask? And why give us your real names? Asked Rias, considering her options. She thought that maybe the guys in front of them were overconfident or they had the power to actually back up their overconfidence. Deciding she didn't really like her options, she just chose to answer truthfully. "And honest. You guys withstood a little more blunt damage than what a normal civilian in our place could withstand, even though we were aiming to incapacitate and not to kill. To put it simple, you got us curious," Naruto said, looking a little sheepish, which made Hinata grab his left hand and squeeze it for support. I see well from my left to my right are Akeno Himejima, Ria's Grimoire, Kaneko TMJM, Kiba Ito and Isay Haim, and Bananas too. We are devils, and we belong to the devil faction, Ria said, which made each member of her peerage look at her a little surprised because of the easy information she gave of each member. I see, so that's why I could sense the same kind of energy in each of you. I'm curious, what were you guys doing in that ruined place? Asked Naruto as another clone of himself appeared from around the forest canopy with a huge deer over his shoulders and grinning widely, which surprised the Grimoire group because of the size of the deer. "Boss, I found food and some edible wild plants too," said the clone, while it left the deer and the edible plants near the campfire and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "We were there trying to save Asia when you 2 bastards suddenly appeared out of nowhere and started touching her inappropriately." "Where is she?" Isay shouted, no longer being able to stay silent through all the interrogation. "Touching her inappropriately? The fuck are you talking about?" "I sensed her and those weird rings on the floor pulsing slowly, so I tried to help her. Once I saw she was no longer in danger, I left her alone. What do you take me for? A molester or something like that?" Naruto said while he pointed with his right hand at Isay. Hinata, having left his side to help another clone that brought some water and had taken out some cooking utensils Naruto had sealed in a scroll he had given her some seconds ago. Look, I'm sorry if it looked that way to you, but I only helped her, I promise. Why do you guys think none of you are sore after the hits we gave you? Because we actually never meant any harm to you. If you are wondering where she is, there, your friend Kaneko can confirm her status." Naruto pointed with his right thumb to the tent on the side that was open a little, showing a resting and well taken care of Asia. I see, sorry for the outburst," said Isay, looking a little embarrassed because of the rushed conclusions he had in that moment. "It's not a problem, although you guys did surprise us with the sudden ambush, so we only had to defend ourselves," Naruto said, while the aroma of roasted deer started engulfing each of the senses of the persons around the campfire. This caused the 5 devils' stomach to growl loudly, which made them blush just now, feeling the single day without food or water come to them, which only made Naruto grin widely. "Care to join us for dinner? There's plenty of food for all of us," Naruto said, pointing to the roasted deer over the fire. Meanwhile, Hinata just got back to Naruto with 2 plates full of roasted deer for each of them and gave one to him while she took a seat next to him again and started eating slowly. "Yes, thank you," said Rias, while another clone suddenly appeared in front of each of them with a kunai in one hand and a plate full of deer on the other and released each member with a swift slash of the kunai. Each member took a plate with caution and started eating slowly, savoring the food, while Naruto and Hinata just served each other another full plate. "Just why did you help her in the first place?" asked Rias after some minutes of contemplation and looking at Naruto and Hinata. "Shrug, why not? She was dying, needed help, so I just did the common thing," said Naruto, moving his shoulders up and down, which made Hinata look at him and smile softly. "I see," Rias said, contemplating everything that has happened recently. Noticing her downcast look, Naruto was gonna say something. "Look, we didn't actually want to harm you or any of you, to be honest. We got here on special circumstances, and we don't know if we'll be able to return from where we came from," said Hinata while she leaned against Naruto, saying the words he wanted to say. "Special circumstances? By the way, this is really good, thank you for the food," asked Akeno, finishing her plate of food and drinking a glass filled with water. "Yeah, her cooking is amazing, right? That's why I once told her she was gonna be an amazing bride one day. And the special circumstances, sorry, can't tell for now," Naruto said, grinning widely, while his arms were crossed behind his head, which made Hinata blush and look at him, smiling softly. "I see, are you two by any chance a couple? And how long have you two been together, if it isn't too intrusive to ask?" asked Rias, while every member of her peerage looked at her, not recognizing the Rias in that moment. Yes, we are. As for how long we are a new couple, to be honest, until the special circumstances came to bite us in the ass, Naruto said, remembering what actually brought them here in the first place. So what are you two actually? Asked Kiba, remembering how fast the two of them were and how he got knocked out with a single punch. We are shinobi or ninja, if it is a known word maybe. Said Naruto, telling their professions while Hinata nodded, confirming it. I see, is that why you two are dressed like that? Is it because that is your combat gear or something like that? Akeno asked, noticing the different clothing each had, which only made Naruto and Hinata blink owlishly. Well, to be honest, we were returning from a mission. We both had our combat gear, but after some weird events which included me saving my girlfriend from marrying an effeminate guy, we ended up like this, me having all my gear while she only has those clothes, Naruto said, not blinking at all, which only made Hinata look down, still remembering how she nearly did something really stupid by trying to stop Toneri by herself. Naruto-kunai, Hinata tried to say. It's okay, Hinata, remember I told you there's no need to remember any of that, it's in the past now and we keep moving forward, right? Naruto said, which only made Hinata nod and get closer to him, showing that she really meant everything they said when they got back from the mission on the moon. Sorry to interrupt, but where are we actually? Asked Riaz, looking around and noticing that she couldn't recognize the part of the forest where they were in because of the nighttime. I'd say about 3 kilometers away from the place we were in about a day ago. We didn't want to get too far away, but neither wanted to be too closer to it. We wanted a safe place until we could actually collect more information and know where we actually were, Naruto said, looking up and noticing that it was getting close to midnight. I think we should sleep. Tomorrow morning we gotta go our separate ways and we are going to take the girl with us, Naruto said, which made all the devils look at him. Why do you want to take the girl with you? Why not leave her with us? We actually went to that church to save her, Ria said with her eyes narrowed slightly, knowing that if she let the girl go, then a potential useful sacred gear was going to slip from her grasp. Well, tell me, what do you think a normal person would think if a group of devils was in such a ruined place with a naked dying girl on a bench? Naruto retorted while his eyes narrowed slightly, knowing things could turn a little ugly if they gave the wrong answer. Meanwhile, Hinata was starting to mold chakra by his side and her eyes narrowing slightly. Look, she's actually the friend of Isay here. She was captured by a group of fallen angels and we were there trying to save her, but we got there a little late. Why not come with us to our place of residence so we can have a more meaningful conversation? Because this environment actually is not giving us any comfort to our groups, Ria said, trying to placate the shinobis in front of her, knowing that if things turned for the worse, they were gonna be taken out again and the nun would be out of her grasp forever. Naruto and Hinata kept their eyes narrowed for some more seconds, looking for any deception and noticing none, stopped their glare and nodded together. Good, as I was saying, we should sleep. Tomorrow, we will go back from where we came. After all, we need more information of where we are and how we need to proceed from there, but you'll have to understand that we aren't going to leave the girl with you anytime soon, understood? Said Naruto while Hinata just kept looking at the group with a little frown. Suddenly she stood up and went inside the tent where Asia was sleeping, which made Naruto only frown and sigh, noticing how her changes were starting to take effect slowly. He needed to talk to her and fast, but first they needed somewhere safe to rest. Maybe going to Tokyo faster wasn't such a bad idea after all. Naruto stood up and jumped to the top part of the tree he was leaned against and kept looking up and in the distance, thinking everything that is happening in that moment. You aren't going to sleep? Asked a curious Riaz, noticing that Naruto was not going to sleep at all. Don't worry, I'll keep guard until the time we have to leave from here. You guys can use the other tent on that side to rest if you wish to do so, said Naruto while he crossed his arms behind his head and kept looking in the distance. 1:30 a.m., 30 meters from camping zone inside the forest. Okay, now I'm really wondering if someone is really out there trying to get a piece of me or something like that. I mean, I don't care if it's against me, I can take it, no troubles, but getting my girlfriend and the person we saved involved in it, yeah, it's a big negative point in my opinion if you ask me, and I promise when I find the one responsible for my shitty luck, I'm gonna kick his or her ass to kingdom come and beyond. Naruto thought to himself while he stood in the frog kumite in front of Hinata, whom was shielding an afraid-looking Asia. He narrowed his eyes in concentration, then felt another devil appear by his side, and taking a step back, he saw the devil stumble in front of him with a fist extended. Taking advantage of the situation, Naruto enhanced his right palm with chakra and swung hard, hitting the side of the metal plate on the devil, which on contact made a hollow sound and a loud crack be heard all across the clearing of the forest they were in. Everyone saw the devil get sent sailing away unconscious and disappear inside the forest. Hinata, how many left now? Naruto asked without turning his head at all, knowing that a false move could cost them dearly. There are 10 devils left, 10 of them, all 3 look stronger than the rest that have been trying to capture us, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, holding Asia's head closer to her bosom, stopping her from watching all the fighting happening around them, knowing that Naruto was thinking of way to escape. Keeping her Byakugan activated, she noticed how the devil that Naruto just knocked out disappeared the same way the Gremory group did about an hour or so ago. DCH, this is really a messy situation. I didn't think so many would appear to try and take us out, Naruto said, looking around himself and thinking fast on how to get all of them out of here and maybe find residence in Kyoto, wherever that place is. The plan to get more information with Rias and the other guys went to hell really fast, but maybe if they could lose track of these guys, then they could make a run for it in the other direction. Can you please just stop all of this? We don't want to have to use more force than the necessary. We just want some answers from you, said one of the devils whom Naruto presumed to be the leader of this assault team that sprung up on them. You say that now, but what about earlier? Why just attack us without saying a thing? Naruto said, remembering the last hour how everything was quiet one moment to suddenly feel and see 20 or so more devils appear out of nowhere near the tent where Rias and their group were in. He remembered how Rias and her friends came out to say something to the red-haired guy that was accompanied by a silver-haired woman and a black-haired girl with a weird costume, only for all of them to disappear in a huge weird glowing symbol, surrounded by a huge circle that appeared beneath their feet. And yeah, that's when things went to hell again. He was actually getting really frustrated with the surprise attack springing on them so fast in such a short time. Couldn't they have just a little time to rest and collect their ideas? Was it too much to ask? Although I gotta admit that taking hostages in an unknown territory after arriving in said territory for only 3 minutes or so wasn't one of my most brilliant ideas, even though I followed the normal rules of infiltration. Sheesh, can't a single thing go right for once in my life? He thought, feeling really frustrated in that moment. Everyone stop, ordered the red-haired male that resembled a male Rias whom Naruto just now confirmed was the leader. The red-haired guy looked to be about 20 years old, with shoulder-length crimson red hair and blue-green eyes, the same color as Rias. He was wearing some kind of armor that covered the upper part of his body, while a long cape was covering his back and sides, leaving it open to notice some kind of white suit, which Naruto presumed was his battle gear. Naruto noticed that the order instantly made the mood around the clearing change, from a really tense one to a not-so-tense one. Can we please have a normal conversation now? We only want some answers to our questions, nothing more nothing less, said the leader, again trying to calm down the 3 humans in front of him, knowing that things weren't progressing at all. Why should we answer to you? After all, you appear, transport Rias and the others to who knows where and then decide to attack me and involve the ones behind me, even though one of them is still recovering from her injuries, asked Naruto, never letting his defensive position go and narrowing his eyes, remembering how everything happened. We received information that Rias-sama and the members of her peerage didn't appear for a whole day from a worried friend of hers until we finally could sense where she really was and ate her, said the woman on the red-haired man's right, who Naruto noticed was wearing a large blue dress with long sleeves that resembled some kind of maid outfit that hugged her form perfectly. He noticed a white maid headband was over her head and her hair was a subtle gray color that flows all the way down to her back, been held by a long braid on each side with small blue bows ending in twin braids. She had gray eyes and glossy red lipstick on her lips, which made her look elegant yet subtle at the same time. Overall, she was a real beauty that would make Ino and Sakura grit their teeth in jealousy. Achoo. Both Ino and Sakura suddenly sneezed loudly together inside the onsen. They were relaxing their muscles in that moment. Both looked at each other, wondering why they did it, but didn't find an actual reason, shrugged it off and just continued relaxing, knowing that they need to attend the envoys and the persons that came that day for the funeral. How can I be sure that you aren't just trying to deceive us into false security? After all, who makes the persons they are worried about just suddenly disappear in order to attack everyone on sight and capture it for interrogation later? Naruto said, knowing that his plan was already done, but the devils in front of him didn't need to know that, right? Hey, look at it our way, okay? Said the other female by the left side of the red-haired guy, who Naruto noticed was a beautiful girl looking in her late teens with black hair tied into twin tails and violet eyes. She was wearing a really tiny skirt that only covered part of her legs, but if she bends down, then one could see beneath her clothes long pink stockings that covered until before it reached her miniskirt. Looking up, he noticed she had another pink shirt that was really small, that only covered just below her breast, leaving her slim stomach and belly button be seen for everyone. And finally, she was holding some kind of wand on her glove-covered hands. Overall, she looked childish with her outfit, although what got a sweat drop come down the side of his face were the way out of place large she had for her childlike appearance. And what would be that way? Asked Naruto with a little curiosity, although he still was prepared for anything. He was the last thing Naruto heard from the childlike woman when suddenly everything around him felt really cold. Asp, Naruto-kun. Hinata said from behind the ice-covered Naruto while she held a now intense shivering Asia closer, knowing that she couldn't let the girl go to help her boyfriend. She needed to get the young woman somewhere safe if they wanted to get out of this messy situation. Hey, now that he's out of the way, grab the girls, we need to interrogate them for information. Said one of the 7 devils left with such a lusty voice that made Hinata activate her Byakugan and start gathering chakra on her limbs, knowing she won't just leave Naruto or the girl behind. Wait, 7, she just noticed, weren't they 10 just some seconds ago? There's no need for any more violence, we can just Grafia tried to say, looking to her right only to stop, which made Serziches and Serafo look at her in wonder, then look at the direction where she was looking at and take notice of the same thing as Hinata did. Crack crack, everyone turned their heads in surprise to where the frozen Naruto was. They saw how the ice that was supposed to hold him in place was cracking, and steam was coming from the cracks until finally the ice shattered with such force that 4 very big fragments of ice went sailing to where the rest of the devils were and hit 4 of them, which made them pass out, and seconds later disappeared in the same glowing circle, leaving the only last 3 devils standing being the gray-haired woman, the red-haired guy and the black-haired woman. Okay, that was not nice to do, I guess plan B will have to do, said, and thought Naruto to himself, looking with a serious face in the direction of the 3 stronger devils. Each devil noticed how the blonde guy had a little layer of orange energy that was bubbling around himself slowly, and how the atmosphere around the clearing actually turned even tenser than before. Preparing themselves for the fight that was gonna break, each devil started gathering their magic, knowing that things were serious now. Oni-sama, One-sama. Please stop this. They are not enemies. Came the roaring voice of one Rias Gremory and Sona Citri that appeared behind the last 3 devils with all their peerages together, which got them surprised and made them turn around involuntarily. Now Naruto thought to himself, taking advantage of the situation, making an appendage made of pure chakra appear behind himself. He grabbed Hinata, who was holding the distraught-looking Asia, and lifted them up. Well, thank you for the hospitality, but I guess we'll have to make our meeting short. See you another time, Rias. I guess our meet and greet will have to be at another time. Take care, Naruto said, making all the devils stop and look around at them, surprised when they saw Naruto take a huge leap and disappear in the night and forest like they never existed to begin with. Wait, Naruto-kun. Rias yelled, lifting her right arm in the direction Naruto, Hinata and Asia disappeared into the night, trying to stop them. Asia. Naruto, wait, leave her with us. Yelled Isay in the same direction, but to no avail. Hey, don't worry about the girl, she'll be alright with us, said Naruto, appearing on the right side of everyone, making those that didn't know about his ability look at the clone surprised, while it had 3 tied up and unconscious devils over his right shoulder, while a big grin was on his face. Rias turned her head around to look at the clone and tried to say something, while everyone else only watched, waiting expectantly. Sorry, I only have enough energy to leave these guys here for you to take care of. Don't worry, we'll be back after some things are solved. And Rias, we'll need to discuss this thing about servants that each devil has a right to own, the clone said in a serious tone, looking at each devil with such intensity that made them feel uncomfortable. After some seconds it dispersed in a cloud of smoke, signifying the end of the discussion. Rias could only watch worriedly the place where the clone once was. After some minutes she turned around and noticed that each member of her peerage had a worried expression on their face. Looking around in the same direction, she noticed Sona and her peerage were looking at her with a curious expression, and her brother, sister-in-law and the Satan Serapho Leviathan were looking at her with an expectant look. I think there's a lot we need to discuss, right? She said, more for the Satans and her sister-in-law than everyone else, which prompted said devils to nod. Can we go back to the academy? This will take some time, and everyone has to give their version of the story, she said, and after some seconds a big magic transportation seal appeared beneath everyone, taking one last glance where Naruto, Hinata and Asia disappeared into the night. She thought, be careful. A music suggestion. Goodbye forever, Naruto, the last ost. It was looking as if the day itself was mocking them. It was raining so much that the persons around the site of the funeral could only sympathize with the day itself. Everyone gathered here. I'm very grateful each of you had made some time on your busy schedules to come for this sorrowful event. Maybe in another time, or if things didn't happen the way they did, then instead of this burial, we could have had something different, said one Haruka Yamino, keeping his face straight and trying hard not to cry. Naruto and Hinata were both my precious students. I saw them grow up from being simple kids to be the incredible man and woman they became. They grew up in a harsh time, each had their amazing qualities and some little quirks to them that made each of them unique. I wish I could have at least saw them grow up some more and have kids of their own, because the majority here knows that they loved each other a lot, but they loved their village more than their own lives. That's why we still continue to be here today. I'm very grateful to all the presents here. I still remember the old days when Naruto would yell out to the world, I will be the greatest Hokage the people have ever seen. Haruka chuckled a little, looking down to the ground while tears were starting to fall from his face, although thanks to the rain you couldn't know. I remember how Hinata would always follow him, supporting him from the distance, never doubting he wouldn't fail, because she saw him stand up all the time after a lot of failures is the reason she could stand up for herself, even though they never noticed it. Each of them helped each other a lot, Haruka said, looking up and looking at all the friends and persons that Naruto and Hinata met on their missions all around the elemental nations. Persons from the land of spring to the last corner of Iowa. He noticed Konohamaru, Mogi and Yuden were crying a lot, but didn't voice their sorrow. He knew that after this things weren't going to be the same. On this sorrowful day, myself as a surrogate father for Naruto and Hiashi-sama as Hinata's father reached an ominous decision, and we both decided that Naruto and Hinata would be buried together under the Uzumaki name. This is my final goodbye to my precious students. Know my precious son and daughter that I wish I could have seen grow up together. Hope that wherever you both are you are supporting each other, as you've done always, Iruka said, finally leaving the front of the two coffins that rested behind himself. One could notice that each coffin was unique, but the most noticeable thing was that in each coffin on the cover, there was an Uzumaki symbol which symbolized the burial of the persons as a family. When Iruka left the podium, the persons started giving their final respects one by one to each Uzumaki. When it was time for the friends on the village, each of them had the same thoughts. I'm sorry for been so weak and not been able to help you, wish I could have stopped all of this, but nothing I did worked in the end. Creak 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 was the slow and deep sound that reverberated in each person's head, even if the drops of rain hit the ground unforgiving, as the coffin slowly but surely disappeared from their sight every time the rope creaked. A flashback of Naruto and Hinata came to their mind, how a bright attitude never wavered and kept moving forward, how a calm attitude was necessary for mediating and taking wise decisions. Every time the rope creaked, the tears on each person started flowing more. Knowing that this was life, nothing could be done, it was natural for each person. I just wish I could have helped you, was the last thought on everyone's mind when they heard the coffins hit the ground softly, but for them the sound was so hollow, so deep they couldn't stand it. Everyone just looked on the ground, not wanting to believe the sight of the Jonins throwing dirt to close the holes. When the final shovel full of dirt was thrown, it was like everything stopped. The Jonins put a double tombstone that contained the inscription. Here lie Naruto and Hinata Uzumaki, beloved son, daughter, friend, brother, sister. An inscription that everyone could see from where they stood, a sight that renewed the tears, knowing that what was in front of them was the real thing, the real life, knowing they couldn't stop it no matter what they tried. Finally, after an hour or so, the place where the tomb was looked so empty it was a hollow sight. Because the rain made all the flowers the people left be washed away slowly until there were none at all. As if noticing the final moment, the rain started to stop slowly. A single ray of sun started to shine on the tombstone, just where the inscription was. One final person appeared and walked to the tombstone and put a single orange dandelion on the tomb of Naruto and a single lavender rose on the tomb of Hinata. Turning away from the tomb, he walked away slowly and disappeared the same way he appeared, as if the wind carried him here. Some distance away, a person watched all this unfold. She shook her pink-haired head slowly, knowing nothing she said in that moment could stop the person from leaving again. Right now it was time to mourn and let time heal, nothing more. Entranced to the cemetery. I'm not giving up like everyone else has done. Oni-sama, Ani-sama, I assure you both that I will find a way to get you back, or help you any way I can. That's a promise, was the thinking process of a young woman that looked to be about 15 years old. She has long brown hair that reached past her back, and two long hair bangs in front that reached until just below her breast with a pink ribbon in each bang. She has wide eyes with a little hint of lavender in them. She was wearing a formal black kimono used for funerals that sported the Uzumaki symbol in each part where the insignia of her clan was supposed to be. After some minutes of continued contemplation, she turned around and, turning off her Byakugan, started walking away slowly from the resting place where her Oni-sama and Ani-sama were supposed to be buried in. Excuse me, are you perhaps Hanabi Hyuga? She heard someone ask behind her. That made her stop and look behind to see the one that said her name. Yes, I'm Hanabi Hyuga, who are you? She said, noticing the two figures behind her. Well, we wanted to talk to you about some important things, said the voice slowly, something that made the Hyuga a little suspicious of whom these persons were. Hey. Hanabi-chan. She heard in the direction she was walking before. She turned around and looked at the person that called her name. Line break. Hinata, are you and the girl up there alright? Asked Naruto in Kurama mode and looking to his right in the upper part where Hinata and Asia were sitting in the huge hand he made with his chakra, knowing that this state was alerting sensors and everyone that could use chakra. He actually wanted to attract the attention of the Yakai faction. Some time ago he asked Kurama if he sensed the chakra signatures of Yasaka and Kunu, which he confirmed, but first they needed to get far away from the devils. He didn't want to push his good luck for the moment. Yes, Naruto-kun, and we are really far away from the devils. I can't see them anymore with my Byakugan. I think we can stop and rest for now, said Hinata, noticing Naruto had been running non-stop to get her and the girl away from the devils for an hour or so, and knowing the girl needed to rest too. Okay, we will stop on that clearing over there, but after 15 minutes we will continue. We need to get someplace I know we can rest for some days at least, until we can gather our thoughts, said Naruto as he appeared in the clearing. Not even seconds of mentioning it, he let Hinata and Asia down slowly. Letting his power-up go, Naruto took a seat in front of the lake that was in the clearing and started meditating while gathering natural chakra slowly. Asia just stood in the place where the blonde-haired man left her, not knowing what to actually say or do. She just looked around the clearing they were in. It was a beautiful clearing, trees surrounding a sparkling clear lake, while some night animals started gathering slowly around the clearing where Naruto started to meditate. She noticed the black-haired girl that was by her side, got closer to where the blonde was, and just kept looking at him, as if she was in some sort of trance. After some seconds Asia noticed that a lot of animals were gathering in front of where Naruto was if she remembered his name right, while Hinata, if she remembered her name right, just kept looking at him without moving. After some second Asia got surprised when she saw Hinata kneel down and get even closer to where Naruto was with his eyes closed. Asia involuntarily took a step ahead, wanting to actually see what was happening. What she saw got her surprised. She saw how Hinata lifted her right leg and straddled Naruto and put her arms around his neck. A little pink started dusting her cheeks. Noticing the intimate position they were in, getting even closer, she noticed how Hinata started kissing and nibbling Naruto's neck slowly. This in turn made her feel a little flustered and get the black jacket that was covering her even closer to her body. Suddenly feeling a little conscious of her state of clothing, she took another step ahead to get a better glance, letting curiosity overpower her senses, but never saw a twig just where her feet was gonna touch. Crack was the soft sound that was heard all across the clearing, and because it was too quiet it was like it reverberated in her head for hours. This in turn made Hinata that was in her trance stiffen and look in the direction where Asia was. Hinata growled and glared hard in the direction of Asia, while her Byakugan activated. This in turn made Asia stiffen and take a step back, feeling that if she took another step forward then something was going to happen. The staring between the two women continued for about 5 more minutes, neither of them moving a muscle. One because she was protecting what was her, while the other was frozen still in fear, not knowing what to actually do. Some seconds later, like magic, the tense atmosphere was broken when Hinata and Asia saw Naruto take a deep breath and release it slowly. When Hinata saw him open his eyes she didn't wait and started kissing Naruto hungrily, while Asia only could continue watching, not knowing what to actually do in that situation. Some seconds into the kiss Hinata forced Naruto into the ground and kept kissing him harder and deeper, while Asia could only watch on in embarrassment. All this happened when she saw they were starting to rub each other, making pleasured groans start to come out of the she couldn't help it. Beep was the cute sound Asia let out while she covered her eyes and knelt down, trying to cover and hide herself inside the big jacket she was wearing. This in turn made Naruto and Hinata freeze, and slowly each of them turned their head to look in the direction where Asia was. Hinata on top of Naruto only narrowed her eyes, while Naruto gave Asia a sheepish grin like saying sorry. "Be sorry about that," Naruto said in a tone that made Hinata and Asia stop what they were doing and look at him surprised. "Well, with all that has been happening lately, Hinata and I haven't had the proper time to introduce us to you, and for that I apologize," said Naruto still under Hinata. This in turn only made Hinata lay down on top of him and snuggle. Hinata, can you stand up? We need to properly introduce ourselves to the girl," Naruto said, trying to make Hinata stand. This in turn only made Hinata hug Naruto, not letting go at all. Cue sweat drop from Naruto and Asia. Anyways, sorry for all the running around and for not providing much clothes for you to cover with," Naruto said as his right hand rubbed the back of his head while he was still laying down on the ground with Hinata on top of him, and he looked in the direction where Asia was. Asia only shook her head, reassuring Naruto that it was okay. They continued to be in silence for 2 more minutes, approximately, neither person knowing what to actually say. Hinata meanwhile continued to snuggle closer to Naruto's body but in her own world. "Thank you," she said, bowing her head low, thanking both Naruto and Hinata for helping her in all that mess that she didn't know how it sprung on them. This only made Naruto and Hinata look at her surprised. "There's no need to thank us, Tebeo," Naruto said, flailing both his arms in front of him, a little nervous, and Hinata just looked at her curiously, this time all her apparent rage for the girl gone, knowing that the girl maybe wasn't a bad person after all, while Asia kept her position, her forehead touching the grass in front of her. Standing up suddenly, Hinata walked where Asia was still bowing and looked at her with a contemplative look. Naruto just looked on how Hinata suddenly stopped in front of Asia, if he remembered her name right, as if checking her. After some seconds Asia lifted her head slowly and, noticing Hinata in front of her, didn't move at all, not knowing what to do. Beep was the cute sound Naruto heard come from Asia when Hinata suddenly knelt down and hugged Asia very tight with such affection that it was as if he was looking at a mother and daughter hug. Very cute and sexy mother and daughter, if their state of clothing couldn't help it, which made him blush and turn his head to the side, knowing that this was a little private moment. Sniff sniff was the soft sound Naruto heard after some seconds, turning his head back around to look in the direction where both Asia and Hinata were hugging. He noticed how Asia returned the hug with shaking hands, as a few tears were escaping her eyes. "Wah. Wah," was the sound heard all around the clearing as Asia cried out loud while she hugged Hinata tightly. Naruto turned around and stood up. He walked to where Hinata and Asia were and hugged them both, knowing that Asia needed the support right now. This scene continued on for at least 3 more minutes until Asia slowly but surely stopped crying, while little trails of tears still continued to fall from her eyes. Sniff sorry was all she said after all three of them separated and she rubbed her eyes trying to clean up her tears, both of them stopped her and rubbed her face slowly with a little smile on their faces. It's okay to cry when one feels pain, to let it go the moment you need it, because it isn't good to let it all bottle up inside you, Hinata said while she rubbed Asia's head softly, which elicited a small giggle of appreciation be heard from her. This in turn made Naruto smile softly, but after some seconds his face turned serious and he looked around himself. Okay girls, I think we need to keep moving. I talked to Kurama and we think that if we continue at the pace we are going, then we can be in Kyoto in the morning, Naruto said, taking notice of each girl expression. After some seconds both Hinata and Asia nodded slowly. Don't worry, I know a high-standing person in Kyoto. She offered to hide us to let us gather our ideas until we can figure out how to proceed. I actually wanted to tell you this before Hinata, but with the things as they were, well you know I had to take a quick decision, Naruto said looking at Hinata intently waiting for her answer. It's okay Naruto-kun, I trust your judgment, I will go wherever you want us to go, but I don't know about little Asia here, Hinata said, looking at Asia intently waiting for her to give her opinion. I think it's okay, I can't remember anything besides dying in that church, Asia said, trying hard to remember anything. Wait, you don't remember a group of devils going to that abandoned place rescue you? Naruto asked a little concerned for her, thinking that maybe Rias and the others lied to him, remembering the information his clone gathered from the 3 captured devils about the peerage system. That word made him really want to rip a new one to the guy or girl that came up with such a horrible idea in his mind. No, I'm sorry, I don't remember anything, just feeling like my body hurt so much and asking for help from anyone to save me. Asia shook her head slowly, while Hinata hugged her tighter as she narrowed her eyes. But what about the devil called Isay? Do you remember him? He said he was your friend, Naruto asked, now really wondering if things were as he thought. He didn't want to believe so, but if they actually went inside the church to try and force Asia to be on the peerage of Rias, then they were going to have a really serious discussion when they meet up again. But first they'll need to find refuge in Kyoto, then the pieces could begin to fall into place in this unsolved puzzle. I'm sorry, I don't know anyone with that name, and if I had a friend then I wouldn't forget him or her, because then that person would have been my first friend ever, Asia said shaking her head and whispered the last part trying to hide that fact, but Naruto and Hinata noticing and hearing this looked at each other and nodded affirmatively. Hey Asia-chan, Naruto asked making her look at him. Would you like us to be your first friends? Hinata asked after Naruto, which made Asia look at her with wide eyes as little tears started to shine on her eyes again. Really? Asia asked with a little tremble of her lips, which both Naruto and Hinata found cute, both nodded to her which made her smile very wide. I would like that a lot Naruto-kun, Hinata-san, Asia said as a few tears rolled down her cheeks, which made both Naruto and Hinata hug her again. I promise I won't let them touch you at all, Asia, both Naruto and Hinata thought together, while they tightened their hold on Asia, which made her feel a little flustered because of the affectionate gesture. Okay girls, time to move, we need to reach Kyoto fast, Naruto said as the golden chakra of Kurama mode surrounded him again. Be ready, the ride till we reach there will be a little rough, Naruto said, as an appendage of chakra held each girl on the upper part of each side of him. Okay Naruto-kun, both Hinata and Asia said together, which made them look at each other a little surprised, but after some seconds each of them sent each other a soft smile and nodded. Yosh! Was the last sound heard in the clearing as a little cloud of dust was left behind where Naruto, Hinata and Asia were last seen. Line break, there it is again, that powerful source of energy, moving fast was the thought process of a young girl that was floating around a myriad of different colors around her, even thought her thinking process was that, she kept looking ahead at the big figure in the distance with an emotionless face. Baroka was the only word she said, and after some seconds a female figure appeared in a magic circle just beneath where she was floating, standing at attention on the soft ground beneath her. You, search source of energy was the only sentence the emotionless girl said as she continued staring in the direction where the big figure was. Looking closer, one could identify the big figure as a great dragon and its color was a crimson one. Can I see how Shirin-chan is doing? Naya was the reply of the distinctive feminine voice as her twin black cat tails swayed from side to side, feeling a little giddy at the prospect of seeing how her beloved little sister was doing, although she too was intrigued about the incredible source of natural energy she sensed some time ago, which made her ears twitch cutely. The young girl floating in the upper part just kept looking at the great dragon in the distance, while the young woman in the part below just waited patiently. Okay was the only word said, which prompted the other female figure in the surroundings to disappear in a magic circle some seconds later. Soon, great red, very soon were the words said by the only female floating in the void around her as she lifted her right arm and made a hand sign with her right hand as if shooting the great dragon, and some seconds later she too disappeared. I'm apologize for taking so much time to report my findings, Rizavam-sama, there were some things I needed to take care of in the house of Astaroth before coming here, said the figure that appeared and knelt in front of the mentioned person. Maybe I should just kill you for your transgression, said the devil sitting in front of him, while a wide malicious smirk appeared on his face. Wait, I have interesting news and information Rizavam-sama, said Diodora Asterith desperately while he bowed his head touching the ground in front of him. Oh, and what would that be? Asked Rizavam a little intrigued on what the low pawn in front of him could had possibly found interesting. Well, something that is not of this world happened while I was waiting for my chance to enact a little plan of mine I had started, saying Diodora as he lifted his head slowly looking where Rizavam was holding a gold cup filled with wine as he kept the smirk on his face. Oh, I hope it is interesting as you put it to let you live to die another day, said Rizavam while he took a sip of his cup slowly. It is, said Diodora while he smiled nervously at Rizavam, knowing that he could live another day to fulfill his objectives about Asia. Line break, a music suggestion. What I've done Linkin Park. Wait, so you are telling me that this Naruto guy and his girlfriend Hinata appeared out of nowhere in a magic circle and knocked all of you out just because they wanted to interrogate all of you? Asked one Surzic as Lucifer with incredulity laced in his tone of voice as a single eyebrow was raised on his features, although after watching the same guy just knock out 17 of his most trusted devil guards of the devil army without breaking a sweat and even withstand Seraphil's imprisonment ice spell, he didn't doubt his strength. But what actually made him even consider attacking them in the first place, because been honest, that his guards were knocked out was his own fault for letting his emotions take control of him and ordering to attack everything on sight to incapacitate and interrogate later. Well, it was kinda my fault, sir, I apologize for it, said Isay bowing his head low while standing at attention, feeling very nervous in front of the boss of his boss, whom was apparently the big brother of his boss to boot. Yeah, things weren't looking very good for him tonight. I see, so you are the new reincarnated pawn that took all of Ria's 8 pawn pieces and whom was just introduced to the devil world. Isay-kun, am I right? Surzic asked as he centered his gaze on the nervous-looking reincarnated devil. This in turn made Isay stand even more rigid than he was before. He nodded nervously while a little trail of sweat ran down the side of his head. Care to put to rest some doubts I'm having right now, said Surzic in such a jovial tone that made all the devils around him tense up, knowing he wasn't messing around in that moment. Why yes sir, he said feeling really nervous. What were Rias and her peerage doing in an abandoned church, knowing that is forbidden land for us devils? Surzic asked while he sipped from a wooden cup filled with hot tea that Akeno served to him some minutes ago. He crossed his right leg over his left one as he waited for Isay to explain everything. Ani-sama, Rias tried to say but was interrupted mid-sentence by the raised left hand of her brother. Rias Gremory, please allow your pawn Isay to explain. The moment I ask for your input into the conversation, then I shall ask for you to do so. Do I make myself clear? Surzic asked, knowing and having heard each version from each of the peerages and kings of each peerage in front of him, but something didn't quite fit the puzzle that just appeared in front of him and he wanted the answers for it. He was worried about his little sister and this was his way of showing such affection to her, even if it meant being the mean big brother. Rias for her part could only nod gravely as she rested her head against her interlaced hands in front of her, ironically, praying for nothing bad to happen. Sir, yes sir. Rias-sama, Akeno-sama, Kiba-senpai and Kaneko-senpai and myself were all in the church trying to rescue a friend. Isay said, never leaving his rigid posture. I see, and I assume this friend you are talking about is the one named Asia that left with both Naruto-san and Hinata-san, am I right? Surzic said as his semblance turned a little more serious. Sir, yes sir. We were there to rescue her because she was kidnapped by the fallen angels that were hiding there in the first place, which elicited the start of a brawl between all of us and we won, but we were too late and she was dead. That's when both Naruto and Hinata appeared and revived her, Isay said, never taking notice how when he said the part about fallen angels hiding in devil territory. Surzic, Grafia and Seraphil all narrowed their eyes, knowing this was a bold move coming from Azazel. But the devils in front of them didn't need to know that. For her part, Rias and Sona felt their body very heavy the moment the words left the mouth of Isay and started sweating when both of them saw all of the ultimate class devils in front of them narrow their eyes together. Surzic Sama, if I may, Sona tried to say to save somehow the messy situation they just got themselves involved in, but a sharp glance from her sister Seraphil made her close her mouth and not say a thing. I see, please answer honestly, this girl called Asia, is she a normal human or does she belong to any specific faction? Surzic said as he let his right leg fall down and hit the floor softly while he crossed his left one over his right one and sipped the tea again, slowly savoring its calming flavor that he actually needed that moment. Hearing the question, Isay was debating with himself whether to answer honestly and say she was a nun or just try to lie to the powerful devils in front of him. Seeing the serious face each devil had, he just trashed the idea of lying, knowing that nothing good will come from it. Sir, she's a nun sir, to be more precise she's an excommunicated nun from the church, Isay said, trying to save some face somehow. I see, did she have any relationship with the fallen angels to begin with? Surziches asked, putting down his finished cup of tea on the little nightstand right beside the couch he was sitting on with such a soft thud that actually reverberated really loud inside each king's head. Crossing his arms over his chest, he changed the position of his legs, again waiting for the pawn to answer. The question itself made Isay sweat and be even more nervous than before. "Sir," Isay tried to say, remembering how all the mess in the church started, how he met Asia and left her on the entrance of the church, to later find her in the night as she helped the maniac named Fried Selzen and discover she was working with the fallen, to then later know what actually happened, how she got excommunicated, and how she became the hostage of the fallen angels. "Yes sir," Isay said softly as he looked down, knowing that if he tried to lie he would be discovered instantly. "I see, I trust you did tell your pawn like how you told everyone else in your peerage, how the balance of the three Bible factions is hanging on a thread right now, am I correct?" Ria's Gremory. Surziches said, looking at Ria's, who only nodded slowly, not trusting her voice in that moment. "Please answer properly," Ria's Sama said Grafia in such a cold tone that actually made all of the Kuo devils in front shiver because of it. "Sir, yes sir," was the soft reply that came from Ria's as she looked up and answered, knowing that things could get even messier if she didn't start acting as the king she was supposed to be. "I see, well in that case I need to make some adjustments to your living here in Kuo Academy," Surziches said, standing up with his arms crossed. "Ani-sama, please wait, I don't want to leave Kuo," Ria's tried to say but stopped mid-sentence when she caught the sharp glance both Surziches and Grafia sent her way. "I never said I was going to return you to the underworld, I said there were going to be some adjustments in your living in Kuo," said Surziches, glancing at Serafal, which made her slowly stand up too. Ria's Gremory, in first instance for the transgression of entering a holy place that belongs to the biblical god faction, you are hereby revoked of your duties as a guardian of Kuo. All those duties now only solely fall on Sona Citri from now on, Surziches said, never letting his emotions get the better of him, knowing that what he was doing was for her own good. "Second, the actions of your peerage fall your shoulders," Surziches tried to continue. "Wait. It wasn't Butcho's fault. I was the one that forced everyone else to help me. I was the only one that came up with the idea to save Asia in the first place." Isay yelled, trying to help Ria's in any way he could, knowing that everything was his fault to begin with. This in turn made everyone else in the room gasp, while only Grafia, Surziches and Serafal stood calm, although Grafia narrowed her eyes in the direction of Isay. "I see, regardless of that, as I was saying, anything that a piece does, the actions it takes befall on the shoulder of its king, meaning that even if you did all of this alone, that would have meant that Ria's didn't control you at all, and you were starting to become a stray devil, which will force us to eradicate you this instant," Surziches said as he started charging some magic. This made Isay open his eyes wide in fear, not wanting to die just yet. "Wait, Ani-sama. I accept the punishment, he's not the one going stray, I knew his plan and continued along with it and made everyone else accept it too," Ria said, holding back the tears that were trying to fall from her eyes, but never giving in. "In light of this new information, then from this day forward for at least 3 months you and your whole peerage will have to go through re-education 3 days each week, and when the time ends you and your peerage will be tested in this particular subject," Surziches said, never letting his serious face go. "So, it is okay to let a living person die just because you don't want your petty war to restart again," Isay said as his sacred gear boosted gear appeared on his left hand and he started charging up. "You are telling me that I should have let Asia die for something so petty as a simple war?" Isay yelled as the green gem on his sacred gear started pulsing violently thanks to his raging emotions in that moment. "I won't," was the last thing Isay could say when he was knocked out by a chop to the back of his neck. When he fell down, everyone saw Grafia standing behind where he was. "Surziches Sama, I request to be able to educate this devil myself," Grafia said in such a cold tone that actually made all the devils take a step back, knowing that her education was actually short of brutal if anything. "It's not because I don't believe in saving a friend, but because the safety of a whole faction, hundreds of people, befall on the shoulders of each and every king of each peerage out there, and the actions taken this day could have sparked a war between the 3 great powers again. You do know this to the point, am I correct?" Ria's Gremory. Surziches said, looking at his little sister sternly, whom could only nod as she looked down, knowing the decisions she took that day were her own and not anyone else. "As the Satan that rules over the underworld, I feel compelled to take all these stern actions I'm taking right now, and as your big brother I actually feel disappointed thinking where I did go wrong and asking myself why," he said sternly at first but finished saying slowly, looking at Ria's softly. "Haha, why you ask?" "Haha," Ria's asked as she could no longer hold in the tears of frustration she was feeling in that moment. Everything, all her planning, just went to hell in a single instant, all because of an unknown variable that suddenly appeared out of nowhere and his girlfriend, the unknown variable named Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga. It felt like the time and space itself was conspiring against her to just watch her suffer and laugh at her suffering, and she couldn't hold it anymore. "All of this. I did all of this because of that fucking stupid marriage contract you and father are forcing me to go through. You know it already." so don't just ask me suddenly why. She yelled out loud, no longer been able to hold herself back, which only made everyone else in the room widen their eyes in surprise because of the outburst she was going through. I fucking despise him. He's no good at all. I hate to think that I'll have to spend the rest of my fucking days been with him. The mere thought of him even looking at me in any way fucking repulses me. I can't stand him at all. I don't love him at all. And you all fucking know it. But even then you are still forcing me to marry him. She kept yelling while a lot of her magic was starting to be seen surrounding her. This actually made Surzich's widen his eyes, because for the first time he felt he was seeing the real Riaz and not the one that looked always prim and proper all the time. I don't want to, I can't stand it, to think that I'll be married to such a filthy devil such as him. All I want is to be able to choose whom I can marry, Riaz said, feeling very tired after her outburst as her tears fell. She fell on her knees, no longer her legs been able to support her at all, as she rubbed her eyes with both her hands, effortlessly trying to clean her tears, but knowing she wouldn't be able to. When everyone awake on her peerage saw her fall on her knees, they rushed to her side and hugged her tight, which only made Riaz cry even harder, while she was being held by Akeno, Kaneko and Kiba, each of them knowing that their king needed them in that moment. Surzich's could only watch this with a little frown on his face, now really knowing what was going on his Amado's mind, but even then he had decisions to take, even if he felt like a bastard in that moment. I see, even then, as I was saying, when time ends you and your peerage will be tested together, and if any one of your peerage doesn't approve, then that piece shall be removed and transferred to be Graphia's. Do I make myself clear? He said, knowing this could spell real doom for his little Amado. And during that probation time you shall not be able to recruit more peerage members. If your peerage fails and you lose a minimum of 3 pieces, then your recruitment rights will be revoked forever. This in turn only made everyone else in the room that saw and heard all this transpire widen their eyes in surprise, knowing that things were dead serious. Why? Riaz asked with wide and teary eyes, knowing that this punishment was really harsh for even her brother to put it on her, and things went to hell and beyond. Riaz, this was no joking matter and you know it well. A new war could have sparked and we can't afford that. I'm sorry, but this is what must be done. That's all I'm gonna say, he said in an apologetic tone, knowing that he couldn't afford this time to be soft. Sona Citri, there will be someone coming to help you in your new duties, and keep an eye on everything that is gonna happen from now on. I'm sending her, so be ready, Serafal said after some minutes, knowing that the conversation and punishment between Riaz and Surzich's was done, but she had to find a way to punish her Amado, and this was the only way she could do it. No, please, anyone but her. You know she likes to control everything I do. Please, not her. Sona said, knowing her sister was punishing her too, not as harsh as Riaz but even as bad. This only made Riaz turn to her and smile apologetically, knowing that really harsh times were coming onto both of them because of a wrong decision. Yes, the one-horned devil Ram will be here in 3 days, so be ready, Serafal said, taking a no for an answer and showing how serious she was. I think it is time for us to leave Lucifer-sama, Leviathan-sama. I shall take this unruly piece with me for the start of his education, Graphia said as she lifted the passed out Isay on her right shoulder and walked to where Surzich's and Serafal were. See you then, Riaz-sama, Sona-sama, take care both of you, and Riaz-sama, sorry about all of this, Graphia said as she teleported both Satans and herself out of the occult research club room. When the Satans left, Riaz was seen still on the ground, but this time she had a lost look on her face as she mumbled to herself repeatedly, anything but that please. Line break. The sun was appearing beautifully on the distance, some sun rays hitting the side of the face of both Asia and Hinata as they both felt their hair blow backwards because of the speed they were traveling at, thanks to the running Naruto that was holding them both in the air in Kurama mode, knowing that maybe they were closer to the part Naruto told them about. Hinata activated her Byakugan, and what she saw some distance ahead made her tilt her head in wonder, noticing some people with weird animal parts sprouting from them. She was confused because she never thought she'd see more people with the same feature as the catgirl from before, although what got her tense were the weapons the persons were holding. Thinking that a confrontation was inevitable, she turned her head and looked at Naruto. Naruto-kun, I think there's something going on. There are persons with animal features some distance ahead of us, but they are holding weapons. Hinata yelled from her position, which made Asia turn her face to look at her surprised because the only thing she could see around were trees, a lot of trees. I see, thanks Hinata, I think it's time we stop and walk to meet these persons, Naruto yelled back as he slowly stopped some distance short of meeting the Yakai faction. Some seconds later Naruto, Hinata and Asia all appeared in front of the Yakai people walking slowly. Halt. State your business in reaching Yakai territory, said one of the persons with animal features in front of them, all who had a big axe in both hands, which made the 3 of them stop. We are here to see Yasaka-sama per her request, Naruto said, taking a step ahead of Hinata and Asia, which made them both look at him surprised. And who are you human that Yasaka-sama herself would ask for your presence? Asked a second guard readying his weapon, a long staff with a blade in the end. Kitsune Senin was the only phrase heard which made all Yakkes in front of them stiffen and sweat a little, remembering the explicit orders their leader gave to them all when they heard that password. They thought that maybe Kitsune Senin would be coming later because their leader told them so, not one day later after she told them all about it. How do we know it is true what you are speaking, Kitsune-sama? I apologize for my rude question beforehand, but we gotta make sure you are who you claim to be, said the first guard, now looking more nervous than before. That's easy to do actually, here Kurama, Naruto said, and thought, instantly transforming in Kurama mode and making the ethereal form of Kurama's head materialize all around himself, Hinata and Asia. Is this proof enough? I would like to not attract more unwanted attention than I've already done, Naruto said in a commanding voice. This in turn made all the Yakkes in front of him drop their weapons and kneel. Yes, Kitsune-sama, I apologize for not believing you, please follow us, we will escort you directly to where Yasaka-sama and Kunu-sama are with all due haste, said the leader of the guards, whom Naruto noticed resembled a lot of monkey wearing an armor. Okay, and thank you for receiving us in such a short notice, said Naruto, letting his form go, but unknowingly, he attracted the attention of a black cat that was searching all around Kuo town, searching for clues about the powerful energy office wanted her to find and bring to her. She had spent the whole night looking after her little sister Shirin when she came until sunrise, so she actually missed the huge energy signature traveling to Kyoto. What? She loved her little sister more than she let be seen, sue her if you wish. I finally found you, but why are you going to the Yakai faction? Naya was the sound the black cat let out in the end of her thoughts as a little magic circle appeared beneath her and transported her. Click 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 is the soft sound of the clock heard all around the room. Rustle is the soft sound of one soft feminine leg crossing over another heard in the same room. I don't like this at all is the distinctive feminine voice of Sona Citri heard in the quiet room. She is a young bespectacled woman with a slim figure, black hair styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes. She is wearing the standard Kuo Academy uniform for females as she looks ahead of herself with her arms crossed under her modest bust. Her queen Tsubaki Shinra is standing behind the couch where she is sitting and waiting patiently, knowing her opinion is not needed for the moment. She is a young bespectacled woman with long straight black hair that extends all the way down to her knees, with split bangs and heterochromic eyes with a violet left eye and a light brown right eye. She's also wearing the standard Kuo Academy uniform for females. The person in question to whom she is speaking to has her head bowed down, looking nowhere in particular. She has her arms crossed under her impressive bust, not saying a thing at all. If one takes a closer look, then one could actually see that she has a lost look on her face. Behind where the girl is sitting on the couch, one could see a standing Akeno Himejima, who is not saying a thing neither, while she just keeps looking ahead with the same lost look as her king. Rias, it's been 2 days already, Sona says as she uncrosses her arms and lets them rest down on the top of her knees. She looks at Rias with a little frown on her face, but this didn't make the woman react at all. Look, I didn't think nor intend for any of this to happen, Rias, snap out of it already. You will have to start going to the re-education tomorrow morning, Sona says to Rias in a stern voice, but one could actually hear the concern too. Rias shifted a little when she heard Sona said the re-word, but otherwise there was no other visible response. Hey, I remember everything you told me about this Naruto guy and his partner, but I never realized that you were safe to begin with. I tried contacting you or anyone in your peerage multiple times, but no one answered. I was really worried, you know. But Sona knows that what she is about to say is something she will regret, but she has to at least make Rias snap out of it because she doesn't want to see her like this never again. It is the first time Rias looks so defeated. Isn't all that happened here his fault to begin with? Sona says, knowing that something like that should make her react. Shifting a little, Rias moves her head slowly up to look at her, and when she did, Sona had to stifle an involuntary gasp because the eyes that were looking at her in that moment actually scared her some. It really was like she was looking at another person. You heard what they said, my decisions nearly made it so a new war could have sparkled. I'm only getting what I deserve for taking a wrong decision, Rias says slowly as she remembers the meeting that was held in the same room 2 days ago. I know what they said, Rias, but it isn't your fault. It's Naruto's to begin with. Sona said, raising her voice a little, knowing that it wasn't his fault neither, but she wanted her childhood friend to react like always, even a little. No, it was mine to begin with because I didn't know how to control Isay from the start. If I did, then maybe something like this would have never happened to begin with, Rias says as she looks to the side of Sona and behind Tsubaki, where the window lays open in the room. She looks up in the direction of the moon. But Rias, Sona tries to say, but Rias interrupts her. As I told you, Sona, Naruto isn't at fault here. He told us that they appeared here on special circumstances. I even told everyone what really happened, but I never thought things would get so out of hand. Where are you? Rias says and thinks, still looking at the moon. That somehow makes her feel a little less tense in that moment. She didn't know why, but she actually wants to see Naruto. Heck, it is a stupid thing to want to see him. She knew him for only 2 hours at most. Then why is it that she wants him to be there? It is an absurd thinking process to begin with, maybe she only wants to see him interact with his girlfriend or something, because the first time she saw them interact, they looked so carefree as if they didn't really feel bothered at all. She didn't know what to think anymore, it was just confusing and irritating and nerve-wracking and a lot of things. I know it's just even now you don't look like yourself at all. You need to assemble your thoughts, Ria's everything you stand for is on the line, more so than never before, Sona says as she crosses her arms again, knowing that at least she made Ria say something. I know, okay. I know I have to take things more serious now than ever, but I don't know what to do, Sona. I just don't know, to be honest. I guess me and my peerage will have to be ready for everything that is coming our way. I don't want to lose anyone in my peerage. All of them are my family, you know that, but things aren't looking good for any of us, Ria says, shifting her gaze to look at Sona again, and this time Sona noticed how Ria started to look a little less lost, but still looking like something bothered her. I guess I'll excuse myself out then. Right now there's nothing much I can say or do to help you at all. I don't even know why this was done. It's the first time something like this has happened. If there's anything I can help with, please let me know. Is the least I can do, Sona says, uncrossing her arms and legs and lifting herself slowly from the couch she is sitting on, knowing that anything that she is going to try or say won't work no matter what she tries. At least she got a reaction from Ria's, which was what she actually wanted, so it was kinda a win in her mind. It's okay, Sona, I thank you for your concern, and if we really need help with something I'll ask for your help again, Ria says as she watches Sona walk to the door and open it slowly. Thank you really, Ria says as she sees Sona walk outside and close the door behind her. After some minutes she turns her head back around again and keeps watching the moon in the distance. Are you okay? Click was the sound of the door closing itself behind Sona heard as she walks away from the club room. She knows that things aren't looking good at all, and they are going to get even harder, call it a hunch or whatever, but she feels like the things that happened 2 days ago were just the beginning of harder times coming their way. Tsubaki, we need to up our training. I don't know why, but I feel we will need it. Something tells me that when this Naruto character appears again, Ria's won't be herself again. We need to try and help her in any way we can when that happens, Sona says, walking a little faster as she fixes her glasses daintily with her right hand over her nose. This in turn makes Tsubaki look at her a little surprised. It shall be done, Sona-sama, Tsubaki says after some seconds, knowing that her king has a reason for everything. She too fixes her glasses daintily, knowing that things were indeed gonna get harder. Yes, it will, there's no time to waste. I'll need everyone available to start our training, because with Rem coming on us tomorrow, things are going to get more complicated, Sona says, shivering a little at the mention of Rem's name, knowing that Rem is someone she really doesn't want to mess with. Even if she looks innocent and soft, she actually has her own attitude. Hi, Sona-sama, Tsubaki says, shaking a little, remembering the first time she met Rem. She really doesn't want to get on her bad side, because if you do things right then she won't get mad at you, but if you mess things up even a little, then yeah, let's just leave it with a simple it's not pretty. So now you know, Jaya-kun, harsh times are coming on to us, but you will need all of us to help her in everything we can. I don't want to lose the only family I have right now. I can't accept it, not anymore. Please help us, Jaya-kun, we need everyone's strength to be able to overcome this hurdle that is coming on to us. Is the distinctive feminine voice of TMJM Kaneko heard all around the seemingly empty room she is sitting in the middle of in that precise moment, as little tears are trailing down her cheeks, knowing that to whom she is speaking to is hearing her perfectly. She doesn't mind that he can see her crying like this. She trusts him so much that she knows he's like the brother she ever wanted and needed. Coach-an, I will do it for everyone. I don't want to lose my family. Neither is the voice of another person heard coming from the coffin inside the room. Even though he is supposed to be a male, his voice sounds very feminine. After some shuffling, the person in question came out of it, and one could notice an androgynous looking male with platinum blonde hair, styled in short bob cut with several small fringes over his forehead and pinkish violet eyes. He has pointed ears, unlike the rest of the boys of Kuo Academy, who wear the boys' uniform. Gasper wears the Kuo Academy girls' school uniform with thigh-high socks, creating a Zetai Rameki appearance. This in turn makes Kaneko's tears stop and look at Gasper, surprised. Are really, Jaya-kun? Hi, Coach-an, right now isn't the time for me to feel too shy. Right now my family needs me, and I will deliver however I can, although having to go outside will be a little difficult, Gasper says, looking down while clenching his fists and knowing that it will be difficult, but for his family, he will do whatever it takes to help them all. This in turn makes Kaneko release more tears and a little sob come out of her as she clumps Gasper and hugs him very tight, knowing that at least she came through to him a little bit, even if it is a little. It's something which makes Gasper look at her surprised and relax on her embrace, and after some seconds he returns her hug slowly. They stood like that for at least 20 minutes, neither saying a thing, just giving each other the support they needed in that moment, because they knew they needed it. After the time passed, Kaneko stopped hugging Gasper and took some steps back while rubbing her eyes with both her hands, and a little bright smile appeared on both half-devils. Alright, with everything that is going to happen we need to be ready, let's go Jaya-kun, we will help our family stay together, no matter what Kaneko says, while she lifts her right fist in a victory kind of pose, which only made Gasper sweat drop and feel a little nervous, and thinking to himself that maybe this wasn't going to be such a good idea. Well, the threat to be on Graffia's peerage actually is worst, so yeah, he's keen to game on with it. Aiko-chan, let's do this. Gasper says while he too raises his right fist, albeit a little more nervous than Kaneko, knowing that he still isn't quite ready for the world outside, but for his family, he will try. I'm Skip. Next day. Alright everyone, today's the first day that our re-education starts, let's tackle this as we always do, let's show them that we are the Gremory family, and nothing will stop us, Ria said to her whole peerage minus Isay. She was worried about him, yes, but she knows that Graffia is taking care of him, so she won't be able to rely on him. Although what really surprised her that day was that Kaneko approached her earlier and told her to release Gasper, her bishop, whom was shy when it involves the outside world. She didn't know what happened, but this little surprise helped to lift her spirit some, and in turn made even Akeno and Kiba be more centered, knowing that all of them were going to stay together no matter what. Hi, but they won't separate us. The peerage of Ria's Gremory said all together, knowing that even if things were going to be hard, they will stand together, because their family won't be separated at all. They will stick together and fight together against everything that is coming against them. Line break. A music suggestion. Porter Robinson Madian Shelter. Thud clack is the continuous sound that the bamboo shot keeps producing. Every time it keeps refilling and emptying itself over the koi pond. A simple yet elegant decoration that somehow makes the ones that listen to it feel at ease. This is the sound that keeps been heard by all the occupants of the wooden room as they sip slowly the tea from their wooden cups. You know Yasaka-sama, you never actually told us how yourself and Naruto-kun actually met, is the voice of Hinata heard breaking the silent atmosphere around the room. If one looked closer, her clothes were very different from the first one she wore about 2 days ago. In that moment she is wearing a white kimono with lavender flowers patterns embroidered on it. The kimono is being held by a lavender sash tied around her waist, which makes her look very regal and beautiful. Well, to be honest, the first time we met each other face to face was 2 days ago, Hinata. Naruto says looking at his girlfriend that is sitting by his right side, and if one looked closer his clothes too were very different from the first ones he wore about 2 days ago. In that moment he is wearing a soft black kimono that resembled more gray than black, with a deep orange wave design embroidered on the bottom part of it. He's also wearing a green bandana with leaf embroidery on it that is holding his short blonde hair back. The kimono is being held by an orange sash tied around his waist, which makes him look very formal and handsome, although the bandana makes him seem a little roguish too. Really? Then how did you know about this place to begin with? Hinata asks looking at her boyfriend expectantly, which somehow makes Naruto feel a little nervous, knowing that he needs to explain things in a way that she understands, but thanks to the natural chakra that is affecting her slowly, that is gonna be hard to pull, he means. Right now the question she asked sounded more like she was mad at him or something. This only helps to prove that he needs to talk with her about the situation before it escalates longer. It is decided after this tea ceremony she and I are going to have a long and slow talk about what really is happening. Well, you see Hinata, I kind of met her on my mindscape. Naruto says feeling very unnerved because of the blank stare Hinata is giving him in that moment as a little trickle of sweat runs down the side of his head. I see, Hinata says frowning a little, then turning back to continue sipping her tea slowly, which makes the mood of the room relax a little. Hinata-san, rest assured that the first time I actually met Naruto-kun crack is the sound heard in the room that makes her stop talking. She notices the wooden cup on Hinata's hand has some cracks on it and her right hand is shaking slowly, which actually makes her feel confused, not knowing why she is doing that. In that precise moment, Yasaka is wearing her formal Maiko outfit for the meeting. Hi Hinata-san, is everything okay? Asia asks looking to her left side where Naruto and Hinata are sitting together, wondering if everything is okay with her friend. If one looked closer, one could notice that she too was wearing a kimono that makes her look regal and beautiful. The kimono itself is an olive green color with a peacock print on it. The kimono is being held by a sash of the same color and design. All in all she looks really beautiful wearing the kimono. Yes Asia-chan, I think I'll excuse myself, I suddenly am not feeling too good to continue with this meeting, Hinata says looking at Asia, and after some seconds she stands up slowly, which makes everyone else in the room to look at her. Hinata-nichan, are you sure you are okay? If you want I can accompany you to your room. Kunu says tilting her head to the right side in confusion as her tails swing from side to side, signifying that she is curious too. In that moment she too is wearing a formal Maiko outfit for her size, which makes her look cute and innocent. Sure, I'd love the Kunu-chan if it is okay with your mama. Hinata says smiling softly and extending her right hand in Kunu's direction. She turns her head in Yasaka's direction and looks at her waiting expectantly. Mama? Kunu asks too looking at her mother with pleading eyes, which makes Yasaka smile softly, knowing his little girl has grown attached to the young man and women in the last 2 days. Okay sweetie, but remember the moment she falls asleep is time for you to go to bed too, okay? Yusaka says as she nods to both Hinata and Kunu, allowing them to be together more time. Yay. Kunu yells excitedly as she grabs Hinata's hand and starts dragging her away, while Hinata only giggles softly to herself. This in turn makes the rest of the occupants in the room to chuckle and giggle to themselves. Kunu-chan want to see a new trick? Hinata says as she bends a little and picks Kunu up on her arm softly. Hi, Hinata-nichan, I'd love to, was the conversation heard coming from both girls while they were leaving the room. Hearing the door close behind both girls, the atmosphere in the room changed from an awkward one to a quiet one. Sorry about that, Yusaka-san. I guess the problems that I thought were going to take more time to arise seem to be happening faster, Naruto says, looking in the direction where Hinata just left with Kunu in tow. No, don't worry Naruto-kun, there must be a good explanation for everything, right? Yusaka says, looking at him expectantly, which in turn made Asia turn her head and look at him too, feeling a little curious herself. Yeah, there is a good explanation for everything, Naruto says, still looking in the same direction. After a minute he turns his head back around to look at Yusaka and Asia, whom are still waiting patiently for him to speak. Well, first I want to say thank you again for allowing us to take residence here in Kyoto, Naruto says, bowing his head softly, which makes Yusaka shake her head softly. There's no need for that, Naruto-kun, as I told you, everything is fine. Besides, I was really curious to meet another Kyuubi and his host, although I guess it is a bonus that the host is kind of handsome too. Yusaka says and thinks while looking at Naruto up and down again in such a way that Naruto starts rubbing his head with his right hand, feeling really sheepish in that moment. Yeah, anyways, please do ask anything you wish to know. I'll try to answer all your questions honestly, although I'll try to not reveal everything if it isn't too much of a problem, Naruto says, changing his attitude, which in turn makes the mood in the room change to a more serious one. I see. Well, first can you please explain to me why you appeared with one more person than the one intended? I mean, I remember you told me you were going to appear with Hinata, but not the girl that is with us right now, and in such a hurry too, while she was naked. Yusaka says, knowing that the time for teasing can come later, but right now she needs to be more serious. Well, to be honest, we were attacked by devils, Naruto says in such a normal tone that makes Yusaka open her eyes wide, wondering why did that happen in the first place. How? I mean, whatever did you do to make the devils attack you? Yusaka asks, wondering if maybe she was giving residence to some devil criminals and she didn't notice at first, but she didn't sense any magic coming from any of them the first time they met, except for the naked girl at the time, which somehow made her hesitant to try and put her idea into motion. Now she will only wait for Naruto to explain. I just hope none of you are criminals or something like that, even though I can only sense you all are humans. So you see, Hinata and I are not from this place. Naruto starts his explanation from the beginning. Wait, what do you mean you aren't from this place? You both are clearly human, although I admit that being able to communicate in your mindscape has me intrigued, Yusaka says, interrupting Naruto for a second. Well, we are shinobi or ninja if you prefer, but not the same type of ninja I read about in the library you allowed me access to one day ago, Yusaka-san, Naruto says, explaining what he and Hinata are. This in turn makes Yusaka nod slowly. Then, what type of shinobi are you and Hinata-chan, Naruto-kun? Yusaka asks, a little intrigued and letting curiosity get the best of her. Well, the first time we met I was actually meditating and started using senjutsu to try and search all around myself, Naruto says, pausing a little when he noticed Yusaka tense up at the mention of senjutsu. Senjutsu? But how? I mean, only a few people can actually use senjutsu, and its variants I don't get it. Is this why you're a different type of shinobi? Yusaka says, fumbling with her words because in that precise moment she is feeling really out of it because of the new information. I guess not everyone here is able to use senjutsu, and well, it's not because of only that, but because I can mix up my chakra with natural energy to make use of senjutsu, Naruto says, remembering the explanation he was told the first time he was learning about senjutsu. Although at that time it was explained in a way that he could understand, which actually makes him sweat drop remembering the explanation. Yeah, he wasn't the sharpest kunai of the set at that time, sue him if you wish, but he mastered something that was supposed to be impossible to master at the time. Wait, isn't senjutsu the ability that allows one to control kai and taki, and then thanks to that allows access to chakra? Asia says, feeling a little curious herself and remembering that some time ago she read some books that had that kind of information to pass some time, as she was feeling bored in that moment, so she read about senjutsu and how it works. I don't know if that is how it works here, but where I come from everyone has chakra, and that's how we could meet Yusaka-san, because after you left, Kurama mentioned that all Yakeis here have chakra and could use it. So he remembered your chakra signature, and here we are, Naruto says, rubbing his head trying to explain how they got to Kyoto in the first place. I see. Well, to be honest, everyone in the Yakai faction has chakra and can use it to some degree, but only specialized fighters use it for combat and defense purposes. Yusaka says, dispelling some doubts that Asia and Naruto have regarding the usage of chakra in the Yakai faction. I see, sorry for not knowing very well about the topic, Yusaka-sama. Asia says, bowing her head respectfully, thinking that maybe what she said somehow offended the Yakai leader. Don't worry Asia-chan, you didn't insult me or anything, Yusaka says, smiling softly in Asia's direction. Well, I guess it is kinda a little like where I come from, but I wonder Yusaka-san, I read in some books that the chakra here is different in some way to the one I use. Naruto says, asking the question he wants to know the answer to, and thinking that maybe this could give him a more balanced answer on what Kurama meant about becoming the Rakuto Sennin of this world to begin with. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Yusaka asks, now feeling a little confused after the question. Well, is your chakra a mixture of both spiritual and physical energy? Naruto asks, wondering if the same concept of chakra applies in this world that he knows is not their own, and thinking that maybe there's a way to go back to Konoha. No Naruto-kun, chakra is only composed of spiritual energy. Here look, Yusaka says as one of her tails came forward and a little ball of flame appeared on the top of it without hand signs or anything like that, which makes Naruto look at her intrigued because he could feel the chakra on the ball of fire, but it felt kind of different. I see, so that explains what Kurama meant, Naruto says, mumbling to himself, slowly coming to the realization on how his chakra is actually affecting and changing the world around himself. Sighing to himself, Naruto continues to contemplate more the facts presented to him that in a way started to be more clear to comprehend. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Asia asks, looking at Naruto a little confused and worried because of the sudden quiet musing coming from Naruto. Looking up at Asia and Yusaka, Naruto shakes his head and starts his explanation. Well, you see, I was asking this because I wanted to confirm some things that Kurama pointed out. And what are those things, Naruto-kun? Yusaka asks, tilting her head, now feeling more curious than before, which in turn made Asia nod. Well, I wanted to confirm how it was possible for you to enter my mindscape to begin with, because I know I have a kind of ability that allows me to connect with other people. No, scratch that. What I meant is that the chakra that I use is more to help people connect and understand each other, rather than allowing easier access for fighting or defense, Naruto says, rubbing his head, now starting to see where everything that Kurama mentioned was going and starting to feel a little frustrated. Allows you to connect people with each other? Asia says, looking at Naruto confused because of what he said. Yeah, I'll explain easily. You see, we shinobi use chakra to create ninjutsu, but originally this wasn't supposed to be like that. Ninjutsu came about because the people corrupted the original idea of ninshu, which was supposed to help people connect and understand each other, but times of war and greed made it so that the art that was supposed to connect and understand was instead used to destroy, kill, conquer. Naruto explains slowly with a frown on his face, which is being mirrored by Yusaka and Asia. The latter, after some seconds, could only cover her open mouth with both her hands because of the surprise. Well, after a lot of time, finally shinobi are now in an era of peace that everyone worked hard to achieve with a lot of effort. I maybe in some years was going to become the leader of the village where I grew up, but because of my carelessness I was transported here alongside my girlfriend after returning from a mission which kind of involved me saving her from a feminine guy, Naruto says as he crosses his arms over his chest and looks at both Yusaka and Asia seriously. So, that's when you met Asia-chan? Yusaka asks, feeling really intrigued because of how they met. This in turn made Asia move her head, looking between both Naruto and Yusaka, feeling that maybe there was something more to it. Well, we didn't meet per se. Hey, I kind of like that little phrase. Anyways, returning to the topic at hand, Hinata and I got involved in a fight that in the end got us transported here, and I wanted to know if maybe there's a way to return, but so far I haven't found any clue in the library you gave me access to, Yusaka-sama, Naruto says as he rubbed the back of his neck, somehow feeling a little restless because of the facts. Thing is, after we got transported here we appeared near where Asia-chan was lying in a kind of death state. I sensed how some weird rings that were on the floor were pulsing with the same intensity as her life force, so I gathered them and kind of just shoved them back into her and brought her back to life. And well, after that I was gonna actually ask what happened when we were attacked by a group of devils, Naruto says again as he narrows his eyes, remembering his encounter with Riaz and her peerage. Dang. I fucking hate that word. I'm definitely gonna have a serious talk with Riaz and kick the ass of the one that came with that idea. The first thing I'll do when I meet him or her is punch him or her hard in the face, then I'll ask what the fuck he or she really was thinking, Naruto thought as he closed his eyes and let a little sigh of frustration leave his lips slowly. I see, Naruto-kun, Yusaka says, feeling that her initial doubts were dispelled thanks to that information. She didn't know why, but she didn't think that Naruto was lying at all. It was like he actually meant every word that he said. Anyways, we knocked those devils out and proceeded to take them with us to know more about where we were. Although that plan didn't go out well in the end, we managed to make friends with Riaz Gremory and her peerage. That's why I told you that maybe we would take more time to reach this place. Because I wanted to know more about where we were with Riaz's help, Naruto says, remembering everything that happened when they first met Riaz, although when the word peerage left his mouth, he narrowed his eyes. Riaz Gremory, huh? They are an important house from the faction of devils. Her big brother is the actual ruler of the underworld, Surzich's Lucifer. Yusaka says, seeing the confused look Naruto and Asia both are sporting on their faces when she said her name in a contemplative form. So I see, so that's why they appeared with at least 30 devils to try and take us out, although the way they were ogling at Hinata and Asia irked me so much that I wanted to rip their eyes out. You fucking believable. Go ahead Kurama, I know you want to, Naruto says and thinks out loud in his mind, knowing that Kurama wants to laugh out loud. I'm not gonna say a thing, just I knew it, Kurama says chuckling to himself, knowing that things are going to get interesting in the future. Anyways, they appeared and transported Rias and the others to somewhere, maybe to the underworld to protect them from us, and well yeah, another fight transpired where I thought I was going to fight the leaders until Rias and another girl appeared and told them to stop, so thinking quickly, I took advantage of the opportunity given to us and grabbed both Hinata and Asia and brought them with me, leaving the devils behind as fast as we could, Naruto says, retelling everything that happened, which Asia confirms as she nods her head without pause. I see, so you used Senjutsu to know where I was located, then Yusaka confirms more than asking, which only makes Naruto nod slowly. Wait, what do you meant when you said that? It explains what Kurama meant. Yusaka asks, remembering the words he said some minutes ago. Oh yeah, well you see, Kurama says, I'm becoming the Rakuto Sennin of this world, Naruto says, rubbing the back of his head with a sheepish expression on his face. Rakuto Sennin? What is that? Asia asks, feeling confused because of the new word that came out of Naruto's mouth. Sage of Six Paths, right? That's the meaning of the words Rakuto Sennin, although I share the same confusion as little Asia-chan here. What is a Rakuto Sennin? Yusaka says and asks, feeling really confused too. Oh right, I never explained the beginning. Well you see, the Rakuto Sennin was the person that started spreading the lessons of ninju in the first place in our world, Naruto explains as he crosses his arms over his chest and looks up, remembering everything. And you are becoming him? Does that mean that you will start spreading ninju? Asia says, feeling a little excited because of something so incredible happening, like letting people connect and understand each other. Well, I don't know if I'll start spreading it per se, but more like, remember I said that we shinobi use spiritual and physical energy, right? Naruto asks as he looks at them while they are nodding slowly. Yes, why? Both Asia and Yusaka answer and ask, not knowing where he was going to with that question. Well, as you say, Yusaka, here in this world, chakra is a composition of only spiritual energy, and thanks to the hatred and malice this world has been through in all its time, it is hard to control, right? Especially the natural energy, Naruto says, now knowing exactly what Kurama meant to begin with. This in turn makes both women nod their heads, signaling for him to continue. And as Kurama put it out, right now I'm a giant walking filter that the nature around us is taking a huge advantage of. Every second that passes, the hatred and malice in this world enters me through natural energy and keeps making me stronger, while at the same time I cleanse it of everything that it has here, like this, Naruto says, remembering the exact words that Kurama used, and in the last part, he stood up and got closer to both Asia and Yusaka, touched them, transferring some of his chakra for them to feel it. This in turn made them both feel a little flustered and a little drunk because of the warmth that is passing through them in that moment. Wow, both Yusaka and Asia say together after Naruto stopped touching their shoulders and transferring chakra to them. Yeah, sorry about that, Naruto says as he rubs his nose with his right index finger while he smiles sheepishly, looking the faces that both Yusaka and Asia were sporting in that moment. Ahahaha, I actually only used a little bit of chakra, so I don't harm you in any way, Naruto says as he returns to where he was before and sits down again, crossing his arms over his chest. Harm us? But didn't you say it is used to connect and understand? Asia asks, feeling still a little flustered and feeling her heart pounding a little faster as she keeps looking at Naruto. Yeah, it is, and be careful, Asia-chan, try to control your body and emotions. The same for you, Yusaka-san, Naruto says, noticing that both Asia and Yusaka were looking at him a little drunker than before. Why? Both ask, feeling the huge urge to get closer to him, but struggled really hard against it. Here, I'll take care of the problem, Naruto says as he makes a hand sign with his right hand, and both Yusaka and Asia suddenly felt like a bucket of ice cold water was sprayed on both that actually made them both shiver. So what you just felt right now was just a little of what is actually happening. The natural energy comes out with my spiritual and physical energy mixed in it, which will boost every ability I have and boost any ally I wish to do so. But, well, the side effect is that little drunkenness because it is just adapting itself to the nature and cleansing it, Naruto says in frustration, knowing that this is what is affecting Hinata too, and he will talk to her once this meeting ends. So Hinata-san is going through the same process as what just happened to us? Yusaka asks, now kinda getting why the reaction she had earlier. Yes and no, Naruto says, shaking his head with his arms still crossed over his chest. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Asia asks, now feeling a little confused. Well, when we first appeared here, she and I were trapped in a weird technique and we were sharing chakra to one another, trying to overpower the technique, and well, we ended up here just where Asia-chan was, so the moment I entered Sage mode to try and get a feeling of where we were, I started the same process as I'm going through on her, which means that she too is being used as a filter for the nature around us with everything it has, malice and hatred, Naruto says as he narrows his eyes in concentration. Asp, is there any way to help her? Or that we can help her at all? Asia asks unknowingly, making Naruto blush a little, but this didn't go unnoticed by Yasaka, who grew a little smirk on her face at seeing his reaction. Well, YUSC, I was actually going to talk with her after this meeting to let her know of the actual solution that Kurama came up with, Naruto says, feeling really flustered and avoiding to look at both Asia and Yasaka, in favor of looking to where Hinata and Kunu left about 10 minutes or so ago. Can you explain to us what is the solution? And is there a way we can help? Yasaka asks as her little smirk grows to a Cheshire cat grin when she saw Naruto's little blush grow to a full red face while he starts sweating a little. Well, if it isn't too much, can we have a different room, preferably one that is isolated from where everyone else is? I wouldn't want to harm anyone else that is around, or I don't know, make things more messier. Naruto says and thinks, feeling more flustered than before if it was even possible. Biggle, don't worry Naruto-kun, it will be done, just tell me when you need it and we will have it ready, Yasaka says, giggling mischievously, confirming her suspicions, while Asia only tilts her head in confusion, not knowing what the Yakai leader was giggling about. Thank you Yasaka-sama, maybe in 3 more days should be okay, Naruto says, bowing his head softly, knowing that he now has somewhere safe to help Hinata with Kurama's assistance. Don't worry Naruto-kun, anything to help our dear honored guests and friends. Well, if that's everything then I think we will need to cut this meeting short so you can go and talk with your girlfriend, yes? Yasaka says while she holds her right cheek with her right hand softly, knowing that what is going to actually happen in 3 days makes her smirk mischievously again, and Naruto just feel more sweat come down the side of his head, knowing he was discovered from the beginning. Hi. Both, Naruto and Asia say as they slowly stand up and leave the room quietly, leaving Yasaka alone in it. Biggle was the last sound heard in the room when the tatami doors to the room closed with a soft clack. So, Hinata, what do you think or have to say? Is the nervous voice of Naruto heard across the room they have been sharing for the last 2 days, asking his girlfriend for her honest opinion, knowing that what he was asking of her was too rushed. They just started their relationship, and this change of events was something very difficult to approach, but it had to be done so nothing bad could happen in the long run. I see, so that's why I've been acting and feeling so different these last few days, right Naruto-kun? Hinata asks, looking at her boyfriend with a mixture of worry and love. Yeah, I know it is asking too much Hinata, after all we've only been dating for only 7 days at most, which was really too rushed to approach such a delicate subject in his opinion, if you ask him. Okay Naruto-kun, let's do it, after all, this is to help me and help you at the same time, right? Hinata says, knowing her boyfriend won't lie to her at all. She knows him so much that she knows when he's trying to lie or something is actually bothering him, and the look he has in that moment actually indicates that he's really worried for her. If that's the case, let's do it. After all, there's nobody else to whom I'd wish to give my first to, but only you Naruto-kun, I love you, Hinata says the last part in a soft whisper while she fumbles with her hands, feeling very shy and nervous in that moment. This in turn only makes Naruto blush while he looks at her, feeling his throat very dry in that moment, so he did the only thing that came to his mind, which was to hug and kiss her softly, which Hinata returned for some seconds before everything that they just talked about came to her directly, and she passed out on his arms feeling very overwhelmed in that moment. Hi Hinata. Come on, hi Naruto says and laughs out loud while he hugs the passed out Hinata on his arms, feeling how all trace of nervousness his body felt had started to leave it, making him feel more relaxed, so that night he chose to hug her closer to his body and hold her for the night, knowing that things were going to be interesting in the future. My girlfriend, Naruto chuckled to himself as he fell asleep holding Hinata on his chest with both arms around her back. Time skip 3 days. Dear Naruto-kun, Yasaka says in such a sweet voice that makes both Naruto and Hinata twitch, one in embarrassment and the other in annoyance, knowing that these raging emotions she's having right now is because of what's happening to her. You both can use it to your heart's content. The Yakai were instructed to not interrupt and continue with their daily lives, no matter what they hear, so if you'll excuse me, I have things to do, Yasaka says as she turns around and walks away, having a teasing smile all the way down. Well, I guess it is a good thing that we have the support of the leader, right? Naruto says, feeling very nervous in that moment and looking to his right where Hinata is standing and shaking a little, although he couldn't figure out if she was shaking because of nervousness or something else. Brunt, whatever, let's just finish this already, let's go Naruto-kun, Hinata says, walking inside the room feeling very annoyed in that precise moment. The angry sex, damn Naruto, you are one lucky bastard. Kurama says inside his head and giggling a little perversely, knowing that what is going to happen is going to be very kinky. Bang Fox, if it wasn't because we actually need your aid in all of this ordeal, I would have left you out of it, Naruto thinks to himself while he too walks inside the room. He turns around and closes the door slowly with narrowed eyes, feeling a little annoyed. Thanks to Kurama's and Yusaka's teasing, this in turn only made Kurama giggle more inside his head. Yep, you need me, and you know it was the last thing heard inside Naruto's head as he turned around to see his girlfriend.